Scouting Combine. We are glad that you're with us today and the Bill Michaels Show. This portion of it brought to you by our friends at Point Brewing, which, by the way, we are going to be at tomorrow. We're going to be at Point Brewing tomorrow in the tasting room doing the show up there. I'll get into all of that and the consternation as to why Grant Bills will not attend nor be running the Bach run with me. Not that I'm going to be running the run. I shouldn't say that because I'm not running anywhere other than maybe to the bathroom. Other than that, I'm not doing anything. Grant Bills, real quick, how you doing today? Because I got your buddy Mike Renner sitting here next to me.
Oh, well, tell Mike hello. I'm good. I was the butt of the morning show for the final hour.
But that's
oh, good. You heard it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. You should wear a cup when you come to work.
It's fine.
Just so you know.
Entertain the listeners above all else, Bill. That's what I'm here to do, even if it's at my expense. It's fine.
Mike Renner of CBS Sports and their NFL draft analyst sitting here with us. I did not know you were originally from Milwaukee. Whoop. I did. Got to turn that on.
There we go. Born in Milwaukee. Grew up a little West Dallas and then Brookfield. Actually moved when I was in first grade. So
really, okay.
I feel like a little fraudulent claim Wisconsin, but I was born there. Grew up there. My whole family, massive Packers fans.
Okay. So. And then you actually, for a while with PFF, you were living in Cincinnati.
So
we covered a lot of the same stomping grounds.
Yeah, and now my brother and my parents live up in Green Bay. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. So you got a place, although you can't go to the draft.
I can't go to the draft. We can't broadcast live at CBS. So I am doing stuff from our studio in South Florida, so I couldn't be farther away, and I'm very upset about it.
So this has got to be, for a draft analyst, this has got to be like Christmas Day?
Yes. Oh, I love the Combine. Now, I will preface that Combine numbers in a vacuum, just looking and saying, like, because this guy tested better than this other guy, that this guy's better. It's like, that's not how I use it. That's not how anyone uses it. So don't use it like that. But it's more in the context of you come in with an opinion of a guy, who he is, and if the numbers are different in some way, shape, or form, it makes you recheck and makes you rethink. And at the end of the day, you usually don't want to draft bad athletes. So if they come here and don't test well, it's like you need to find a reason why they didn't test well and why they'll succeed on an NFL football field despite it. And if you can't find one, well, sometimes those guys don't work out.
So when you're evaluating some of these guys, and because everybody wants to shoehorn certain players to the top, and I've never understood the whole, this guy is suddenly ascending. From the last time you saw him on the field, how does somebody suddenly ascend? Just because they go to a camp and they run a little bit faster than maybe what you thought they would?
They suddenly ascend because people in the NFL told you that they had higher grades on people in the media. And that's how they suddenly ascend, is that it's not, they don't come here. And the guys that go here and test well, if you've watched the tape, it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise, or you're bad at this job. So, I think that suddenly ascending is a media artifact of basically catching up to what the NFL evaluations are.
The Packers obviously have certain needs. They need corners, they need edge rusher, they need a wide receiver. Now, after having a couple of discussions in the hall yesterday, I understand the Packers are not interested in making a trade. So it looks like for some of these guys that could be on the open market, they probably are not going to dive into that pond. But they are, at least from what I understand, open to bringing in a outside free agent to fill one of their three needs, which is corner, edge rusher, and or wide receiver. It seems like they want to go after one. Now, they'll probably have the money to do two if they need to, if they get a guy on the cheap, but it seems like it's free agency in the draft. So where is, out of the needs, and I hear also offensive line is now ascending, to use the word ascending, that they're looking now heavily at offensive linemen as well. So in those four particular cases, where is the most depth? Because I'm thinking if the Packers don't have depth in the later rounds, well, say the offensive line has plenty of offensive linemen, then chances are that's not going to be their first guy. It'll be a wide receiver or, say, a corner or something.
Yeah, I think defensive line is where the depth is. It's got top-end talent. It's got day two talent. It's got day three talent. It's the best position group in this draft class in terms of just sheer number. So defensive line is where I would be floored if 3 rounds went and not one of them is a defensive defensive tackle, right? So it's very deep. Corner is a little bit thinner on day one, but there's a lot of guys on day two that are intriguing. And then offensive line, to me, it's a very bad interior offensive line class. Basically, of guys who played guard or center in college. Packers' way, though, is to go tackles. Draft a tackle, put him on the interior if you do need an interior guy. That usually works for guards, though, but it's a little bit more difficult for center, which is where they're probably going to have a need, right? So it's not a good year in the draft to want a center. I'll just say that.
That's one of the things, because people are talking about, Josh Myers as to whether or not you pay him or you don't pay him, you let him go, and if you do, then what happens? Would you pay Josh Myers?
I would not, unfortunately. That one haunted me from the moment it happened. The grade I had on him versus the grade I had on Creed Humphrey. We don't need to rehash it, but they were distinctly different by a few rounds. And just his play over the past 4 years.
They were good getting guys out of Ohio State. So they figured maybe this is the next coming.
Go back to him. And he got better over his rookie deal. Like, I don't think he was a liability by any means, but I think ideally, I mean, Elkin Jenkins was a center coming out. I do wonder if he'd be interested in going back there because I think Jordan Morgan's best position is left guard. I mean, that's what I saw him as coming out of Arizona. And I think after what he showed last year, you want to get him on the field.
Were you surprised that they took him and labeled him as a tackle?
A little. Because my eval was just like guard all the way. I just did not see tackle on his tape. I loved his tape. I thought he was an awesome player. I actually had him higher on my board than where he ended up going, but it was at guard all the way. So yeah, I was a little surprised. Obviously, you always give a guy the shot to start a tackle. You don't want to take that off the table entirely. But yeah, I think where he's at now at guard was his home.
When you look at the depth of the Packers' needs, and I've said all along, look, if you're going to get anybody, even in free agency, to me, the edge rusher takes the longest to develop. Mm-hmm. You can sheer speed and athleticism can help you when it comes to being a corner or a wide receiver. But you got to figure out moves and figure out the speed of the NFL. And my philosophy has always been, knowing this, that when you're in college and you're a guy going to the NFL as an edge rusher, you whip the ass out of maybe 9 out of the 12 guys you face. Because the other 3 guys might end up in the NFL. The other one, they're not coming here. And if you're that good and you're in the NFL, you're going to beat them. When you get here, every guy is as good as or better than you. And it takes them a lot longer to develop. So if you need an impact player now at the edge, the draft is not the way to go.
Correct. And especially in this class, even like the round 1 guys who are getting like top 10 hype, after Abdul Carter from Penn State, who's obviously going to go like 2 or 3, there's not a guy who I feel could even be like a Jared Verse last year. And obviously he was a different animal, but he was like a 5th-year guy coming out. These are all young 20-year-olds who in college, they can just run around off its tackles. You know, they're so much more athletic that they don't even like get to develop because they don't have to develop. They don't have to develop a move to figure it out. So yeah, I think if I'm talking about this class and who can make immediate impact, I see wide receivers that can make immediate impact that could start for you right away. I don't see a lot of edge rushers where the Packers are going to be drafting or even in a day 2.
Who do you think, if the Packers for the first time in a long time take a wide receiver in the first round of the draft, the name that I keep hearing over and over, and specifically as I walk around here, that's going to be there at the tail end of the first round is Ikabuka out of Ohio State. And that's their kind of guy. He's a very good route runner, very good hands.
Yeah, I honestly think all 3 of the guys who could be on the board there, Luther Burden from Missouri, Mekhi Ikabuka from Ohio State, and Matthew Golden from Texas that you'll see in first round mocks, I think all actually fit what the Packers mold has been just over the course of, the Thompson, Gutekunst era, which is just bigger bodied route runners, guys who can run a slant in their sleep. So I see that with Ikabuka. I don't see him as number 1, but they just need reliability, right? You watch that receiving core and just the up and down nature of these guys is frustrating. You'll have high highs, but then you'll have low lows. Mekhi Ikabuka is steady and he's a super smart player. He's a locker room culture guy that I think the Packers would love. So he's on the board there. And he's the pick. I would love it.
What is his? Now we haven't seen him run yet, but what is his unofficial time? Are we looking at a 4.4 guy?
I think he's pretty fast. I don't think he's the most sudden. I don't think he's the guy who's an easy natural separator. But in terms of just pure downfield speed, I think he'd be. He's not as fast as Christian Watson, but I think he'd probably be their second fastest wide. I think he likes low
really?
mid 4.4s. Yeah,
better than Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs.
I think so.
Out of the Packers group. The name that I keep hearing over and over again is Dontavian Wicks. He's got the highest ceiling and the best level of ascension he can possibly get to. Now, hanging on the ball, it was problematic through about 10 games. And then after that, he stopped the drops. The drops really became almost eliminated at that point. To me, if I'm looking for a guy to take a leap this year, that's the guy I'm looking to take the leap.
100%. With him, it is just reliability because and dates back to Virginia, right? He had big time drop problems there, but it's not the way he attacks the ball. Like I worry with Christian Watson, the way he attacks the ball, right?
Yes.
Dontavian Wicks will attack it well at the catch point, but just the ball slips through his hands too many times. Like he is catching it out away from his body, but it's just getting through there. So those guys usually, I don't want to say will figure it out, but have the potential to figure it out. I think you remember Devontae Adams drops early in his career.
James Jones too.
Felt similarly about it. He attacked it the correct way. Everything was good until that ball hit his hands, and sometimes just mental, sometimes just getting that out of your head. So I tend to agree that guy, when I watch, is the most prototypical number one-esque traits of any of the guy they have, but it's just for some reason it hasn't all come together.
Looking at the rest of the draft class, I know that you can use depth. The Packers could use depth at maybe a linebacker position behind Edrin Cooper and Quay Walker. Quay Walker started to play really well before the injury. Edrin Cooper jumps off the page at you if he can just kind of eliminate some of the mental mistakes and really kind of get into the rhythm in the NFL. But they're going to need a lot of depth in corner too.
Yes. This linebacker class, it's not so what they would want, like a bigger type of linebacker, because I think Edrin Cooper's your like weak side linebacker. You would want maybe like more of like a Sam or a Mike linebacker. It's Jihad Campbell from Alabama, who may be on the board when the draft in the first round. And that's it. There's just not a lot of guys with like that kind of prototypical size that they would want in their defense. But corner is more interesting to me because there's a lot of day two guys who are very good, just very savvy football players. I think this class doesn't have a ton of high-end athletes at corner, but I see a lot of guys who just like great zone corners that can tackle and things of that nature. So it's interesting to see how they'll address that position, because I think we all know that like they desperately need to address it.
Last couple of years, there's been players that we've looked at and we've said, these guys are going to be good. These guys are going to be impactful players in the NFL. Mm-hmm. My next question is there these guys, it doesn't seem to be this level of hype coming into this draft class.
Now, last year, I think I went about 14 deep where I was like, man, if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, I'd be floored. Right. You know, outside of like the quarterbacks. It was a great draft. This year, I probably go about 3 deep in that, where I'm like, if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, I'll be floored. And it's like the guys everyone's talking about, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and then Mason Graham, the DT out of Michigan. So after that, it really is a grab bag. I think number 5 on a lot of people's boards can be number 20 on other people's boards. It really, there's this big chasm in terms of how you're evaluating that next tier after those top 3. So it's a weird draft, but I do think there is a good amount of depth on the day 2, and especially again at the position that the Packers will need. So I sent my brother a text yesterday about like a wish list of all, and I was like, there's a lot of guys on day 2 that I think could really be impact players from right away, and that's where you build the teams. That's where you make your money.
So, do you see more teams trading out of this first round?
That's a good question. I do think so at the back end of this first round. I think you'll see movement, especially if there's one of, if only 2 quarterbacks have been off the board into the mid-20s. I think someone could move up and get that third quarterback.
Yeah. The question then becomes, do the Packers hang on to that first-round draft choice, hanging on to the draft and having it in your own backyard, as opposed to there really not being any value there? Yeah. So trading out of it.
Yeah. I could also trade up, too, because I think, when it's this type of draft class, you'll just be jockeying for certain positions. There will be runs on certain positions. I think offensive line specifically is one where there's really 4 guys you want in the first round. And if they're still within striking distance of one of those, I can see them making a move up and going and getting one. But I think it'll be a draft where you see a ton of movement because of the runs that will be on certain positions.
Mike, good stuff. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Like I said, this is kind of like your Christmas, so we'll get you back on. After this thing's culminated and the draft is done, we'll talk to you then, too.
For sure, Bill. Happy to do it. Thanks,
appreciate it. There you go. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show live down here in Indianapolis. More of the Draft Combine coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree. And you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience in this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Show. We are live. We're here in Indianapolis. Here at the NFL Draft Combine, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Cousin Subs. Cousin Subs, where they believe in better. Cousin Subs been around a long, long time. 1972 is when they started. So stick with the hometown team. Stick with Cousin Subs, whether you can order online, order ahead of time. And they have delivery available. You can earn rewards along the way. A lot of great stuff and a lot of great subs right there at Cousin Subs, and a big supporter of our mission when it comes to Big Unit Foundation. And we appreciate them being along for the ride as well. That's our friends, again, from Cousin Subs, where they believe in better. Welcome back to the program. And busy day today, a little bit different day today. You got the players that are going to be over in the Lucas Oil Stadium and beginning their testing and such. They are at the podiums today. It's a little more a buzz today as the players are here, but a lot of stuff is beginning to shift over to the stadium today as well, as some of the members here at Radio Row. You come in on the first couple of days, you get all you need, and then you head out. And those that are going to be here studying a lot of the players and getting interviews with the players are going to be hanging out. So I had started the show off with Mike Renner from CBS, and I was going to talk about it, but Mike was here right away, so I wanted to kind of throw it out with him. But rumor yesterday, I met a couple of people, and the one rumor is, I don't want to say rumor, but the one notion that was, kind of fed to me yesterday was, the Packers really don't have any interest in making a trade. That they don't feel like right now, for what's out there, the value is there for parting ways with some of the value that they currently have, unless, of course, they're making a trade for Jair Alexander to move him on. But what I understand is they do and very much are open to going into free agency, to fixing one or two of the holes that they have. But they're not going to, it's not going to be this spending free for all unless they find guys on the cheap where they're going to go corner, edge rusher, wide receiver, and such. That's not there. What I was told was, there's a hard look going on right now at in free agency at a particular position. Well, I was not told which, but one of the three obvious needs. And the Packers don't really have an interest in making it. Not to say they won't. It just says that they are very unlikely to make a trade in acquiring someone. Now, trading away Jair Alexander is certainly the possibility, but in acquiring someone, and that the majority of what they decide to do this year as far as bolstering this team is going to be done through this draft, and who they believe to be some of the guys on their own roster that are going to continue to ascend. So that's the way it was kind of put to me yesterday when I ended up kind of having one of those impromptu meetings in the hallway yesterday. Speaking of the hallway yesterday, which was pretty cool, I was leaving the facility here. I was getting ready to get on the elevator at the parking garage, and some black SUVs pull in and everything, and some guys get out, and around the corner comes Mark Murphy. Now, why is that odd? It's odd because you don't see the owners and presidents here. You see general managers, scouts, coaches, some assistant coaches, but you don't see presidents and you don't see owners. Mark, obviously being a part of the NFL, certain NFL committees, competition committee and such. And by the way, the Tush push stuff, and I kind of laughingly said, so no Tush push, huh? And he said, it didn't come from me. So it wasn't Mark that was bringing that up specifically. So just an FYI. Grant Bills, how you doing back in Madison?
I'm doing good. It was nice to hear Mike Renner. I love Mike, and there's probably no one better with the draft, or there's very few that are as good with the draft. So nice to get him on. I talked about this on my show last night and hinting at what you heard about a trade or a lack of interest in a trade. I just feel Packers fans are getting a little restless this offseason. And if they don't have to go all in, but if they don't do one or two things to push the envelope a little bit, I think Packers fans will be disappointed, and rightfully so. We've been told that this is year 3 of a 3-year plan, and it's time to contend for Super Bowls. And Goody didn't really communicate that in his press conference the other day. And I don't know. I don't blame Packers fans if they're getting a little antsy, I guess is my point.
Yeah, when we were talking last night, it just got into the thing about it is you run into everybody here. I'm like I said yesterday, I'm walking along and there's Mike McDaniel. I saw Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott and I almost bumped into each other coming out of the bathroom. It's just everybody's here. It's you can't not help running into somebody. And if you don't run into somebody that you run into somebody who knows somebody, but you can tell by the teams, because everybody that's on a team and with a team is walking around with their logo to payroll on. So if you're a scout with the Dolphins, you're wearing Dolphins apparel, and you can tell by your lanyard as well what you are. Some lanyards are blue, which is part of the teams. Other lanyards are green, which is part of the NFL. Other lanyards are like media, the black lanyards like we have. And then you kind of go from this. You can kind of tell when you look at a person if they're wearing team gear plus have a colored lanyard, they're with the team. So you can see scouts, you can see PR people, you can see the GMs, you can see the head coaches, and they're all here. So the long and short of this is last night, I ended up going, I took some pictures at Nikki Blaine's last night. I met Solomon Wilcots and a couple of guys from the NFL over there yesterday. And I'll tell you this, when we get over there at about 4 o'clock, they open at 4 o'clock Eastern time. We get over there about 4. There's nobody there. By the time we go to leave about 6:30, it's starting to get a little bit crowded. They say by 9 o'clock, there's 2 places. There's Rocky Patel's Burn, which is a cigar lounge here, and then there's Nikki Blaine's. They said you will find probably half of the NFL's general managers and coaches there. That's where they go. So Mike and I had a great dinner at Tony's Steakhouse last night, and just a wonderful, wonderful time. And the whole NFL network was there, and there was NFL front office and Park Avenue people. And like I said, anywhere you go, there's somebody in the NFL. But I was told last night, we were talking, just Packers in general, and said, yeah, the rumor is that they're not really interested in parting ways with draft choices unless it's a really valuable deal on their behalf. They said it's highly unlikely. It's not out of the question, but highly unlikely. And then we were talking about free agency, and I said, well, look, obviously, if you're going to get rid of Jair, you have a need at corner. You have a need at edge rusher opposite Rashawn Gary, at least somebody that can kind of elevate the defense and help Lucas Van Ness kind of ascend. And then, obviously, the number one wide receiver. And I was told specifically they're in on free agency to fill a need, not all three. And I said, well, I wouldn't expect them to go all in on three different guys. And they said they probably going on one, maybe two if the price was right, but you're not going to fill all the needs via free agency. And they're not going to do it via trade because they don't want to. The value just isn't there. So that's why I asked Mike Renner specifically, like, what is the deepest portion of this draft class to see where the Packers are going to go with their first round and second round picks? Because if you're going to get an edge rusher, chances are, unless you trade up to get him, one of the top guys, you're going to go back because they're going to be there in the back end unless you go wide receiver, because wide receiver can be an impactful player like an Ibuka, who I continually hear, and Mike admitted it too, like everybody says he's going to be there. The Packers, they know they have a need. They know Christian Watson's not going to be back anytime soon. That is an area that they circled, so he could be the guy that ends up in Green Bay. So that's kind of what the rumors are down here when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. The other thing I will say this, and I'll be perfectly honest about the cautionary tale, is I can report all this and say, this is what we heard, this is what's going on, here's the rumors. But we know, and I've been around this, this end of the business long enough to know that a lot of things that are said here can turn out to be BS because they're sending up red balloons to make you follow the red balloon. So underneath the other side of town, they're doing something different. So while I don't want to say never, and my information's really good, but it would not, because Ted Thompson was a master at that. He would figure out a few things to drop along the way and then go completely the opposite. So in
subterfuge,
right?
Brian, that was his word?
Exactly. And Brian Gutekunst has been, at times when he's made deals, we haven't seen him coming. So he's good at that. But again, and that was probably a 20-minute conversation about the NFL and about the Packers in general that I had yesterday, where they just said, no, it's, from the discussions that have been out there when it comes to trades, the Packers they're calling. So I was glad to hear that. But when it's kind of like, hey, what are you looking for? Nah, we're not interested, thanks. And that's kind of the way it's gone in a couple of different occasions so far in this offseason. So anyway, which I know is disappointing to a lot of Packers fans, and myself as well, but that's just philosophically how they feel, how they are. So let's do this. We'll step away. We'll take a quick break. We got a lot of good stuff today. We will talk a little Bucks and Brewers today because we haven't talked any Bucks or Brewers. We talked a little college hoops yesterday, Marquette getting a win and Wisconsin getting a win, and their seasons are both winding down, the regular season. Obviously, the Brewers are continuing in Cactus League. We want to touch base with our guy, Chuck Freimund, and the Locked On Brewers podcast. We got him coming up. Jim Owczarski from the Journal Sentinel, our Bucks beat guy. He's going to join us today as well. So we're going to get kind of caught up on a few things back home as we sit here today inside the Indiana Convention Center and the NFL 2025 Scouting Combine. A couple of things, some housekeeping things. Over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, I posted some video stuff today, posted some pictures from last night, because I keep talking about Nikki Blaine's and people said, let me see it. So I posted pictures. Also, a couple of things that are going to be going up from dinner last night over at Tony's, Mike Clemens and I. But if you want to check out the videos, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can find us, The Bill Michaels Show or Bill Michaels Show, any one of those. You can track it down there and see some of the videos and the pictures that we posted along the way as well. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Love to have you on board today at some point. Maybe get some of your voices to be heard. This portion of the program brought to you by friends over there at Smoke on the Water in Okauchee Lake, right there in Wisconsin Avenue, out in the fun area that is Okauchee, obviously. And then you got Sloppy Joe's Saloon and Spoon on Hubertus, in Hubertus. Both places very unique. One is on the lake. It's got that lake country vibe. They've got what they call the below deck, where they've got music and bingo, and they've got TV screens galore. And so when the tournaments get underway, specifically March Madness, you're good to go. Or Sloppy Joe's Saloon and Spoon, great place for a Friday night fish fry, great place to go get an old fashioned. That's a place that looks like an authentic Wisconsin bar. Both places owned by Joe and Ellen Hennis, fantastic owners, great local business, great people along the way. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show down here in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. We got more right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You know, it's funny. It's never been like a philosophical thing we've talked about through my time in Green Bay, which goes back quite a while. It's never been something, hey, like we don't want to take wide receivers in the first round. There are certainly opportunities we've had where we thought that was going to happen, and for whatever reason it didn't. But at the same time, we've had a lot of second-round receivers that have been pretty good players for us.
Those are the words of Brian Gutekunst. Talking about, some trades and such. Whether or not they actually happen, philosophically here in Indianapolis, the rumors saying the trade for the Green Bay Packers, a trade highly unlikely, which was told to me. But not out of the realm of possibility, but highly unlikely, more so that they're going to take care of at least one of their needs via free agency. The rest is then going to be garnered through the draft, unless, of course, Brian Gutekunst finds the right deal. But going after high-end prospects in free agency or a big name via trade, unless the trade value continues to reduce, then the Packers most likely, from what I understand, they're making calls, but they're not in it. They're not in on some of this stuff. Hey, our friends over there at Quick Trip reminding you, food's here. That's right. Look, everybody's busy. We all know that. I can't wait to get back to the state of Wisconsin. And when I do, I know going, once I enter the state, all the way up to Stevens Point tonight, which is where I'm going to end up, I'm going to be swinging by a Quick Trip at some point, because tonight, that's dinner. And it's good dinner. When you talk about getting it, fast food, first of all, it's cheaper than fast food. It's better than fast food in taste and in sheer health, in a lot of different ramifications. So, look, I stop there all the time, and I love it, whether it's picking up a quick tea, a sweet tea, I should say, or one of the waters, or stopping in for some of the chicken tenders. Oh, my God, their chicken is so their fried chicken is fantastic. But you can even order ahead, and they'll have it sitting there and pay for it online and have it sitting there on the cart waiting for you when you arrive. This stuff is fantastic. And whether you just stop in there to get gas or quickery hamburger buns or hot dog buns or milk or anything else for that matter, thank God. I can't wait to get back to the state and get back to our friends over there at Quick Trip. Thanks to Quick Trip for being a part of the program, and thanks to Quick Trip, as they say, see you next time. So Grant Bills, disappointed by the news that the Packers really aren't delving too deep into making a trade, or not surprised at all?
No, I'm not surprised, and that's what they would say this week. It's like, well, we're going to explore every avenue, and if there's a player that gives us a chance to help make our team better, we're going to explore that. All of the things. My concern or my worry or my frustration with the Packers is more big picture, right? And we played that Goody cut the other day where it's like, well, last year it was San Francisco. Now it's Philly. It's like, yeah, that's the point, man. You've been the bridesmaid and not the bride for almost 15 years now.
Right.
And Packers fans are starting to get a little antsy and wondering, when are we going to, really get aggressive? You don't need to go all in and trade, multiple first round picks. But this is year 3 of this supposed 3-year plan that we've been told about. And between the draft, free agency, and any trade opportunities, I think Packers fans are looking for a little extra snooze this offseason.
Yeah. I was talking to one of the guys from the Cleveland Browns, the television station, and we were talking to them about Myles Garrett and why is the team so emphatic that they don't get rid of him. And they said the same thing that we were thinking, is 2 reasons. One is the obvious, and that is they just don't want to get rid of him. He's a fan favorite. The fans love him. They've already they're in a bad spot. They've got Deshaun Watson. They can't unload that contract. There's no real commitment to him at this point, but he is just the albatross around that franchise for the next couple of years. And it was a bad deal. It was the owner got enamored with him and fell on his head. And then ultimately, between that and then the Kirk Cousins deal in Minnesota, changed the landscape for quarterback pay in the National Football League, which is still, from what I understand, what some owners hold in really a kind of a pissed off regard at the Cleveland Browns for guaranteeing all that money. But that being said, they just don't want to get rid of him. He's a fan favorite, and they just feel like once they get rid of him, that's it. Any hope of even competing in the division, pretty much gone. Like, you are now again in the midst of another rebuild, and they feel like they have a decent defense. They just don't have anybody offensively to lead their team. And they really need somebody. And Jameis Winston, certainly as much energy as an enthusiasm as he had, he's not the answer. They need a quarterback, but you can't go out and pay one because you're paying, craptastic Deshaun Watson, who's banged up. So they're stuck, and they feel like once they get rid of Myles Garrett, like, that's it. Like, this franchise is, again, 3 years away from doing anything relevant, and it's just starting over and starting over and starting over, like wash, rinse, repeat, but in a very negative way for them. And the second thing is they're saying what a lot of people are saying is that they're saying they're not going to trade him, hoping that somebody comes to the table and knocks their socks off with some kind of a trade deal. My understanding is the Packers made a call, and that was it. It was like, thank you very much. Not going to do it. But I was at least, and again, I don't know for certain. They said, the person that talked to me said, he believes that the Packers have inquired. Put it that way. So my assumption it was a call, or at least a conversation maybe around here, but that, yes, the Packers have inquired. But other teams, many teams have as well, from what I understand. So we'll see where that all kind of shakes out before it's all said and done. But who knows? Neat. There's a lot of neat stuff here. Let's try to bring you all the flavor of this place. Today is a busier day. It's like the staff is rolled over. Like, all the geeks that are coming here to see the analytics of all these players are now here, and all the people that were getting all the analysts on, like we've been doing all week, are now gone. Our people from Charlotte that were next to us, they're gone. The people that were from Dallas, they've switched out. They got a new Dallas station here, but they left. The people from Cleveland, from the television station that I talked to last night, they're gone. They left today. There's a lot of people that have now gotten out of town. It's rolled over a little bit. There's a lot more tables that are vacant, but there's also a lot more of the guys that are going to be running at the combine. They're now all in Indy here. And it's really interesting because you'd figure at night, Grant, when you're out, you'd see these. You don't see these guys anywhere. I mean, you may see them coming out of a health food store or their agents. There's no going out. There's no drinking. No, because you don't want to add any alcohol. That's going to add additional body fat. You want to these guys are all about, the majority of them anyway, are all about what's going to go on here today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, as far as their testing goes, because you don't see any of the players out, but you see general managers, coaches, assistant coaches, scouts, front office personnel with the NFL, people from Park Avenue. You can always tell the people from Park Avenue because they're always decked out in just top of the line suits and such, but they're all running around here, and they're all out on the town, and they're all smoking cigars, and they're all eating and having meetings and the whole thing. But the players, you don't hardly see any of them at all. So it's just an interesting scene down here. It's a lot different than we were in when we were at Super Bowl, and you walk into a restaurant and there's players over here and there's agents over here and PR reps over here. And it's not like that here. You don't see any of the guys. Other than that, what's happening? Because we have not really talked Brewers or Bucks. Bucks got a loss the other night. They're back at it tonight. They're back at the Fiserv. They're taking on Denver. Who's coming to town. But any news, anything specific coming out of Brewers camp that we have not really discussed that's kind of got the eyebrows going up? Because I know we're going to talk to Chuck Freimund coming up in a little bit later.
Well, Carlos Rodriguez pitched yesterday. He sucked. So there's that. That was kind of, he was bad. He couldn't throw strikes, and it was just a mess. Jesus Mate, their youngest, superstar prospect. And I don't know if he's like top 100 or he's their top prospect. Everyone's excited about. Yep. He's really young. He played a little bit yesterday against the Dodgers, so that was good. Vinny Capra hit another bomb. Garrett Mitchell hit a bomb off Yamamoto on a breaking ball. So that was kind of interesting. They played a split squad yesterday, so I was trying to pay a little bit of attention at least. And then last night, did you see the finish between Maryland and Michigan State? Oh, my
God, yes. I thought Maryland was going to win that game. My God.
I'm not mad about it because the Badgers porked themselves by blowing that Oregon game last Saturday. Explain this to me, Bill. In a tie game, what is it with people my age, my generation, needing the potential game-winning shot to be a 3?
Don't know.
Why did the Maryland, I can't remember his name, Gillespie.
Did he take a 33-foot shot?
And maybe, listener pointed this out to me, maybe he thought, well, I'll take the shot early, and maybe we like our size or whatever, we'll have an opportunity for a putback.
Right.
Okay, but
No.
It's tied. Go to the cup and see if you can draw a foul.
Don't take that shot. It's
always a 3. I don't. Yeah. If you're down 2 and you're trying to steal away, that's different. It's tied. Why does it always have to be a 3 with kids my age?
Don't understand it. You had at least one more pass in you, too. You had time. It wasn't like you had to heave the 3 up at that particular point in time. At least if you take the shot, take it as time expires. Don't take it with 5-6 seconds left on the clock and giving them the opportunity to get up court and take that beyond half court buzzer beater. Which, first of all, it's an amazing. I thought the comment this morning when I was watching the highlights coming in was, oh my God, Tom Izzo pulls out an open. Izzo did a good job, but that's one of those games you win where you go, yeah, we got lucky.
Izzo said that after all the audio. He said it after the game. That's a lucky shot, but we played well and we'll take the win.
You know, but people are giving Izzo all this credit. And look, Tom Izzo is a tremendous coach, but sometimes you just whale one up and it goes in. And there is no amount of coaching, no amount of skill, no amount of nothing that helps you out other than just for whatever reason, God grabbed the ball and dropped it in the hoop. That's
especially this time of year.
Right.
It happens for whatever reason.
That's it. But I can't. I'm right there with you. When I was watching that last night, I'm thinking to myself, why, as he was taking the shot, now part of me is like, oh my God, he's going to make a 3 and they're going to win the game. But then I was thinking to myself, well, they're still going to have time to inbound the basketball once it goes through the hoop. And then when it came back, my first reaction was, wait a minute, why'd you take that shot? Why not just even you could have even driven inside the 3-point line and gotten kind of like a Michael Jordan semi shove off with a step back jumper and still won the game from inside the arc. Why would you take that 33-foot shot? I have no idea. None. Dumbest play, I'm sure, because nationally the kid's getting criticized like crazy today. So I'm sure he's probably sitting in his room right now going, oh my God, turn off the TV. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm sure in Maryland, they're probably all over talk radio saying, what in the world? Why would you take that shot? But dumb shot. But hey, you know, Michigan State, they hung tough, and boy, what a boring game though. Did you I watched the second half, but what a boring game. Did you watch the game?
I watched the first half because it started when I was still on the air, I love having something to watch.
It was 55-55.
Well, that's the thing. The Badgers have spoiled us. I can't watch all these other teams because the Badgers are pouring in 80 to 90 points a night. Been spoiled. Michigan and Nebraska, that game finished in the 40s the other night. Michigan won like 49-46. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, it was. And again, I'm also a fan of fast hands and a lot of deflections and tips. So I do appreciate good defense. But, man, that was a sloppy game.
And you can get that from Marquette. Marquette's one of the best watches in the country.
Yes.
If you just want to see guys fly around and be really active and athletic on defense, you can get that from Marquette.
Yep.
100%.
Very much so. Very much so. We're broadcasting live. We're here at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, Indiana, inside the Indiana Convention Center next to Lucas Oil Field. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got a lot more to get to, so don't go anywhere. This portion of the program brought to you by our good buddy Dwayne at Dwayne's, D-U-A-N-E-S, Dwayne's Cover It All.com. That's Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com up in Wausau. I might even see Dwayne when I get up there. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do it, but I'd like to. But nevertheless, if you've got, say, a boat, you're looking for upholstery repair, you're looking for a new travel cover, you're looking for a bimini top, maybe you've got an awning you want to put up in front of your business, kind of dress it up, or maybe tear down the old awning and put on a new one. There's gym equipment, there's office furniture, so much more I can think of when it comes to upholstery and fixing things of canvas ilk. That is our buddy Dwayne at Dwayne's Cover It All. Boat covers, upholstery, awnings, he can do it all. Give him a buzz, 715-870-2119, 715-870-2119. Up there in Wausau, that's Dwayne's, D-U-A-N-E-S, Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com. Again, 715-870-2119. Give Dwayne a call. More of the Bill Michaels Show live here in Indy right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Are you ready to shake things up at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee? All you gotta do is toss your rewards card into your favorite slots for drawing entries and a chance to be in the Roll for Riches game show. What's on the table? Oh, just $300K in cash and prizes. Play this March, and Thursday nights, you could get on the winning streak that, frankly, you deserve. Let it ride and Roll for Riches. Only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Look it, that was a lucky shot, but nobody can say we didn't deserve to win this game. I mean, we made some bad mistakes, give them credit. We threw the ball away a little bit and everything. But we deserve to win this game, to come into this place. I'm so proud of my guys, and Trey made the big turnover, and he made the lucky shot, but we deserve to win. I'm not taking that as a lucky shot.
Why do you think you guys deserve to win?
We played our tail off the whole game. Didn't you watch it?
Tom Izzo.
That's so good.
Check it out. Come on, man. Come on, man. Well, look, they deserve to win the game. They made a play. Maryland didn't. You won the game. Lucky shot, yeah, but who cares? I'll take it. What is the old adage? I'd rather be lucky than good at times. So, you got to be good to get to a certain point, but come on. Michigan State got a little luck. They get a win last night. They stay the game ahead of the Badgers. So Badgers win this weekend, and they're going to be pretty good. Not a bad way to go. Just hang in there until you – well, no, I take that back. They've got Michigan State this weekend, right?
Yeah, they got Michigan State on Sunday.
On Sunday. I'm going to be home for that.
I might try to sneak over to the nice Ash. I'm scheming something for Sunday.
So here's the thing, and I because I want to be there. A friend of Kristen's that she used to work with is having like a gathering, like a brunch at her house, and we're supposed to go to that for a little bit. What time is the Badger game?
I think it's like noon or 1. Let me look.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that we go over for a little while, and I hope that nobody, like her husband or anybody, isn't listening. But I'm hoping we can go over for a little bit, and because we don't have to be there long. It's just a very impromptu, casual thing. So I'm hoping we can go over there, say hi, shake a few hands, and then I'll join you at the Ash. Because that's
12:30 Central Time.
12:30 Central. That's my plan. So I'll get Kristen up early and say, hey, let's go be one of the first ones there. Let's just do that. That way we look, we got the rest of our day. And then when she says, okay, what do you want to do after this? And I'm going to be like, we're going to go watch basketball. And then I'm going to be called a bunch of names. And I haven't seen you in almost 2 weeks, and get the hell out of here. So
here's the great thing about college basketball is it's two halves. It's over pretty quick. Like if that's the one sporting event that and it's the same at my house too. It's like there's this one game that I have to watch today. Other than that, that's the only thing I need to do. Well, a college basketball game is great because you're in and out pretty quickly.
I'm going to have to buy her something.
When you say something like
dinner or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. She loves a nice Ash. Don't get me wrong. She loves it, but she's kind of committed to her friend. And I've been all over between dragging her down to Super Bowl and then being back for a week. And then after that, I'd had meetings, and then down to Cincinnati last week, and then back home for only a day, and then back down here for a week, and then back up to Stevens Point. And I haven't seen her in almost 2 weeks. So
is she going with you to Point?
No, she's got meetings, and she's got her own job and stuff. So she's got stuff going on. So yeah, she's at the house. I mean, I might get a chance to, in a very brief moment on my way from here going through Wisconsin up to Point, maybe I'll swing by the house or something. But that's about the extent of it. So, hey, hi and bye, and then out the door I go, and then get into Point tonight. I had people ask me too where I'm going to dinner at Point tonight. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm probably gonna be tired. So chances are, if I don't go out somewhere specific, my thought is that I'm probably going to grab something at Quick Trip and then just crash. And I'm up early tomorrow over at Stevens Point, over at Point Brewing. So and then I'm tearing the equipment down here and then setting it all back up there and then getting the show together. And then but on Friday night, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'll be on Friday night. Maybe that's when I traipse up to Wausau or something, go see Dwayne and those guys. But nevertheless, who knows?
My mom went to Point. Let me text. I'll get the hot spot from her.
Oh, I keep picturing, that Big Bang Theory where he says, look at her back in the day. Look at those saddle shoes. Wow. Picturing your mom wearing the saddle shoes. What?
Right. Like I bet nothing has changed in Stevens Point in the last 25 years. I'm sure it's all the same. She can help us.
We got 1 hour now. We got 3 more yet to go. Don't go anywhere. More of the Bill Michaels Show live here in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. We got more right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers are trying to get something for Jair Alexander. That was the report from the NFL Network yesterday that the team had made clear the former All-Pro cornerback was available on the trade market. Alexander has played just 14 games the last 2 years due to injury and 1 game for a suspension. Alexander was GM Brian Gutekunst's first-round pick back in 2018, the first time he handled the draft.
Well, obviously, he's been here a long time. He's been an elite player for a number of years. I think the past few years have been very frustrating for him, and not certainly for us too, just because you want players like that on the field consistently, and you can't be because of injuries. That's a tough thing on a player. I know he's doing everything he can to be out there, but yeah, I think the last few years haven't been where we wanted to be only because of injury. But obviously, very, very talented player.
Alexander not expected to draw heavy interest in the trade market, as most teams expect him to get cut. Once there, 28-year-old likely going to be a pretty sought-after guy, considering the lack of guys like him making it to the open market. Turning to the Badgers, they've added another coach to help with special teams, and Michael Sabin. He spent the last year at Florida Atlantic. Wisconsin closing in on the start spring ball, which gets going in about 2 weeks.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
You're grateful for all the ways technology can connect us. Unfortunately, there are online scammers who want to take advantage. Malicious viruses, phishing scams, and identity theft are more prevalent than ever. That's why Rural Mutual includes cybersecurity protection as an option on every policy.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the 11th-ranked Badgers going to be back on the floor today for practice as they prep for a trip on Sunday to Michigan State. Spartans sitting atop the Big Ten at 14-3, while Wisconsin is 12-5. As for the Bucs, they're going to host the Nuggets tonight at Fiserv Forum, and the Brewers going to host Kansas City in Cactus League action this afternoon as well. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil for it.
Welcome in. Hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show. We are live. We are here in Indianapolis. The NFL Scouting Combine. Rumors of the day, as I had mentioned, is obviously I was saying earlier that I ran into a couple of people in the hall who said that the Packers unlikely to get into the trade market, likely to take care of at least one need in free agency, 2 if the price is right, but the majority of what they're going to do is done through the draft. The tires were kicked on Myles Garrett in a discussion, but the Cleveland Browns right now really, at least outwardly, don't have an intention of trading him, but that doesn't mean that they won't along the way if the deal is right. Joining us here at the table, you'll recognize the face from CBS in Green Bay, Lauren Hri here. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Bill. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad to have you. Absolutely. So I hear last night I'm out last evening, and it was told to me that the Packers are not interested in the trade market. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot about trading up or things like that. Based on some conversations, I feel like where they're sitting right now is where they're going to be. But, you know, with Brian Gutekunst, you might make last minute decision.
I know that one of the guys that I met last night said that at least at some point the tires were kicked on Myles Garrett, which I'm glad to see that at least they're kicking tires. But it seems like the trade value is too high. They don't want to give up those draft choices. They're going to address at least one need between corner, edge rusher, and wide receiver in free agency. But I was told that they're not really aggressive right now, that they're one of the quieter teams that are out there when it comes to any movement below the surface.
Which is interesting because there were a lot of calls for Max Crosby, too, coming from the Raiders. I feel like Packers fans especially were saying this is the kind of guy that you would want in Green Bay. And obviously his connection with Josh Jacobs really complemented that. But I do feel like that died down pretty quickly. And it didn't seem as if that was going to be a big emphasis for them, was to get one of those bigger names, especially because they're a little bit older. And as we've seen recently, the Packers love their young talent. Obviously, bringing a Josh Jacobs, bringing a Xavier McKinney shows that you can get some vets that will really change a locker room.
So the other day when we were talking to Goody on Tuesday, he had made a mention of, and I didn't get a chance to follow up, but he made a mention of Lucas Van Ness saying, well, we're really, it's going to be a big jump this year. My next question would be, what leads you to believe that? Because you did, I understand he had the busted up thumb, but what leads you to believe that Lucas Van Ness is about ready to make the next jump? Do you see it?
I guess it's development. The Packers do truly believe that in-house they can develop their players. And that's why, obviously, what's worked so well with the quarterbacks. And I think it must mean that Goody believes that development aspect can translate to multiple positions. I do feel like Lucas Van Ness needs to do more. He hasn't popped off the page like he should have. But as he progresses, it sounds like the Packers believe, hey, we can develop in-house. And so Lucas will be the next example of the Green Bay way, where you stay here long enough, you get to that talent.
The question that I would have is, and this is probably the 10,000-foot view, is that correct? Is that obstinance, or is that arrogance?
I don't know. It's worked in the past.
But they don't have a game record. For all the talent that they've taken on the NFL draft via the defensive side of the football, they don't have a game record.
No.
And they're looking for one.
I think Adrian Cooper has the potential for being a game wrecker. And I think the Packers really enjoyed what they saw from him this year. And the fact that he's young, there's a lot more there. And there were a couple of mistakes early in the season where they really just attributed that to his youth. Obviously going to be changing a coach for his position with Anthony leaving to go to Jacksonville. But I think Adrian, for the potential of a game wrecker, he's on that list. We just haven't seen it yet because he's too young.
What do you want them, because we were talking with Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus and CBS a little while ago. He was talking about the depth at certain positions. Do you think this is the year that the Packers say, get a guy like Igbuka, where they take him in the first round as a wide receiver? Do they finally go in that direction? Do you think, and granted, the board's going to change, obviously, but do you think that because there seems to be a depth at edge rusher for the defensive we'll say defensive front more than anything. Do you think they wait, or what do you think the Packers will do? Because it's always whatever we think the opposite happens, and something that is completely out of the realm of possibility finally actually happens.
Well, cue me last year being all in on Cooper DeJean, and then they went offensive line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I personally think
which is another area that I heard that they're going to go in. They're looking heavy in.
I think they need to go secondary again because Xavier McKinney can be a leader, but he can't do it all by himself. And with the conversations around what Jair Alexander's future is going to look like, I think they need more talent in that position. And you saw how quickly the depth dropped off in the secondary this past year when an Evan Williams gets a little injured, when people can't play, it got light pretty quickly. And there's some question marks about Eric Stokes' future with the Packers, whether he's going to be here this upcoming season. So I think
even if he is, how effective is he going to be?
I think they need a second. I think they need someone in the secondary. And I personally think the conversations around wide receiver, that would be more beneficial from a seasoned vet versus bringing another young guy in, because that's been the whole thing. We go young on wide receiver, and then Josh Jacobs makes some comment about how we need a true wide receiver one for the Packers.
When you talked about, we saw the warts, we'll say, so to speak, in the secondary. We saw it on the offensive line when you had, Elton Jenkins went down.
That last game.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Well, you saw the offensive line get beat up the way they did. Now, granted, the offensive line had played together all season long, so all of a sudden you're in the biggest moment throwing other guys in there. But that's the reason I hear the offensive line. They're really looking for more offensive linemen because Elton Jenkins, who played at one point center, they feel he can move over, although he's a pro guard. So I don't know if you want to mess with that. But then they feel like Jordan Morgan can slip in or they can add additional depth. But they're going to probably need 2 offensive linemen.
Well, definitely. It sounds like Josh Myers' injury is going to be okay right at the end of the season. It was thinking, oh dear, is he going to be out for the year? It sounds like he's going to be okay. And then Sean Ryan has really developed into a legitimate player. But at the end of the season, like we said in Philly, you just saw 1, 2, 3 go down. And so I do think offensive line, but I also think, again, how's Jordan Morgan going to look this season? Because we didn't see him at all last year.
Pressure in Green Bay. I mean, the pressure throughout the state is huge via fans, but it's more intense, obviously, in Green Bay. This is one of those things, though, where for a lot of guys, including Jordan Love, this is your prove it year. Jordan Love had a good season in his first year. We saw the growth, and then there was this level of expectation, and it got off to a rough start, obviously, with the game against Philly and Brazil, and then he got hurt and the groin issue. It just seemed like it never got flowing. This is a big prove it year for Van Ness. This is a big prove it year for Jordan Love. This is a big prove it year for a lot of these guys, including a guy like Quay Walker.
And I just think the Packers in general, you can talk a big game, but then having one win in the NFC North. You can't do that if you want to be a contender. They aren't contenders right now if you can't beat the rest of your division. Yes, the Vikings were great. Yes, the Lions were great. But if the Packers want to be in that conversation, you got to start at home. You have to beat the NFC North. Like you mentioned, Quay Walker, a lot of potential, and we've seen really good things from Quay Walker. And then a few games will kind of drop off.
Fall away.
I'm curious how the new linebacker room will look with a new leader in that position.
Yeah. Tell me what you think of this upcoming season for Jordan Love. What do you need to see to say, okay, they paid him the right amount of money for the guy that we're now getting?
Ball control, the turnovers were really brutal. And obviously there was a lot of joking about, oh, well, he's just Brett Favre in that way and he can throw. But the team wasn't good enough to overcome a lot of those turnovers. And so minimizing the turnovers and being able to really make your reads and be, I guess conservative is kind of people don't like that word in football, but you do have to be conservative with the football.
Manage the offense.
Manage the offense because you can't turn it over so much when your defense is doing their best. But if the other team gets the ball in the red zone, they're going to score. The defense can slow them down, but they're going to get some points on the board.
Did you, when Goody said it's time to start getting serious about Super Bowls around here, what did you take that to mean?
It's hard because isn't it always? It's Green Bay. You're supposed to be. You're bringing the Lombardi back. You're bringing.
That's exactly my point. It raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, well, who's this message for?
I think it probably has to do with the youth, and so a few years ago, everyone around the Packers was saying, "Well, they're the youngest team in the NFL. They're the youngest team in the NFL. You can't expect much." The Packers would never say that. They would say, "Well, youth is an excuse." But maybe it was. If Brian Gutekunst is saying now we need to be serious about the Super Bowl. Was it in the back of their mind saying we need a few more years to develop this young offense so that they're game ready to play in the Super Bowl? But What I really need to see from this team is to prove that 2 seasons ago wasn't a fluke, that last year was actually the fluke where they were struggling and not putting things together. I think 2 seasons ago is who this team can be. And with a better special teams, they go further in and maybe make the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Now they've made adjustments with the kicker, and obviously we have to see if Brandon McManus is going to come back.
That was going to be my next question.
But that was a serious issue 2 seasons ago. Last year, it had a lot to do with everything around. I mean, obviously there was the Bears game and some special teams issues, but getting McManus in, keeping a good kicker, I think that's something. But at each year, the players get older, and so there's more game experience, and therefore they should be prepared to make it to a Super Bowl.
That was going to be my next question. We have not talked at all down here about special teams, and obviously you kind of fill your special teams out with what you garner here in the draft. But were you surprised Rich Bisaccia got a contract extension? Because, and again, I know he's the assistant head coach, and there's a lot that goes into it, and they really like him. But one of the reasons they brought him here was to bolster the special teams. And special teams, short of McManus, had so many issues last year. It seemed like we were more amazed when they didn't have an issue in a game than when they did.
Well, let's give Daniel Whelan some credit. The punter has been very good. Obviously, not the most beautiful. Exactly.
It's not the most freaking punter.
Hey. All credit to the punter. But I think that Rich Bisaccia's role with the Packers is so much deeper than just a special teams coordinator. I think he really is, to use a colloquialism, a vibes guy. I really do think that he means a lot to that locker room. And so, yes, on paper, the special teams has not been good. So you would think, well, that doesn't translate to the extension that he got. But, I mean, look around football. Luke Fickell just got an extension, and the Badgers missed the postseason for the first time in, 21 years. And so it's stability, it's trust, and then it also, I think it's deeper than what we get to see on the field. I think Rich Bisaccia means a lot to that locker room and a lot to that head coaching staff, and they have faith in him for what he can do in addition to special teams. But he needs to do better because, I mean, you can't have a Daniel Whelan punt go to the complete opposite side of the field and have it returned for a touchdown.
Exactly. Keyshawn's bringing that up. Keyshawn Nixon says he doesn't want to return punts and he wants a CB1. I don't see Keyshawn Nixon as a CB1. I see him still as a nickel, maybe a slot guy, but he's not your first press man cover on the outside that I would think of. And I know Matt LaFleur and Goody both talked a little bit about that, about, well, wherever he fits, blah, blah, blah. But how do you think he's going to be if they say, no, you're a nickel guy and we still want you to return punts and kicks?
Well, it was funny at the end of the season, Matt LaFleur was told, because he hadn't even heard that Keyshawn said, I don't want to return kicks anymore. And he kind of smirked and said, well, it looks like we're going to have a conversation with him. I think realistically, Keyshawn will still be returning kicks. I think he's probably, I know that he's frustrated about the new rules in the NFL and just how teams are kicking around him. But the Packers need him. They need that speed, and they need that contribution. I think it depends on the draft. Are you drafting a CB1 from the draft? Or if not, then to me, that shows that the Packers believe that they have what they need in-house, which to me would be Keyshawn.
Yeah.
Because who else?
Some of the young guys they had in the secondary from last year turned out to be pretty good. Now you're waiting for them to make the next step. I just don't think that they have. I don't think lockdown corner anymore in the NFL is really a legitimate thing because the rules are so skewed to the offense. But I think the closest thing to it is when you have a healthy Jair Alexander, which he's not going to be there, obviously, at least for the most part. But I got to think that they're going to draft 1 or 2 at least defensive depth guys in the secondary.
And they did it last year.
Yeah.
And it translated because Evan Williams made a major impact when he was healthy and out on the field. And so the Packers have experience and knowing, but I do know that Green Bay fans watching the Super Bowl were just kicking themselves thinking, look at Cooper DeJean out there.
Oh, I know.
Could have been in Green Bay.
The draft night, I was all over it, and I was as disappointed as anybody. So believe me, I get it. Before I let you go, when you look at Matt LaFleur going into this season, I've said he's not on a hot seat. I said that other than the fact that probably there's a brighter microscope light on him this year coming in, there's no discussion of hot seats or anything. Do you feel he is? This is a prove-it year for him too?
I don't. I feel like the Packers as an organization, yes, it's a prove-it year, but I don't think that making the playoffs should be a punishment, especially when we see the coaching carousel in the NFL right now and the quarterback carousel. The Packers have faith in their quarterback. The Packers have faith in their head coach. I don't think it's at the point where people are saying we're wasting Jordan Love's prime years by not having the right coach.
Well, Jordan Love got to play better before you waste a prime year.
Exactly. And I would say vice versa. It's not like we're wasting Matt LaFleur's prime year as a head coach by not having the talent. So I think, again, it always goes back to the same mentality. The Packers develop. And so to develop, you need to have consistency. I don't think Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat because you want to keep a unit together so that they can grow and eventually become that Super Bowl contender like Gutekunst mentioned.
Lauren, we got to get you back on. We appreciate you for coming by. What do you got going on down here?
We're doing some interviews, getting people ready for the fact that the draft is coming to Green Bay. Getting them excited to be in Lambeau.
It seems like, and I don't know how many people you've run into, but everywhere I go, people are like, I got to make that trip. It's like a bucket list.
Oh, yeah. I interviewed Laura Rutledge of ESPN earlier. She'll obviously be covering the draft. She's never been to Green Bay.
Yeah. They were talking. I saw a podcast Aaron Andrews just did. I don't know if it was with Connie Bowl or who it was, but they were going back and forth about their favorite place in the world is Lambeau Field. Like there's nothing like it. And this was completely unfettered from anything Green Bay related. And that's all they were talking about. And the people around here, I was talking to some of the guys from Dallas who had never been, same thing. It's like, well, we want to come to the draft. We want to come to Green Bay because they may never get there for a game, but at least they can get a chance to be a part of something there. So it's got a good buzz.
It's great to be around people in the league who still are that reverent toward Green Bay and toward Lambeau, because sometimes we might take it for granted. It's the place where we work. We go every single day. And then you meet someone at that caliber, like we're talking, and they say, I can't wait to go. You think, this is someone's bucket list, and it's just our job.
Oh, yeah, and it's in our backyard. Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming by.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Don't forget, we are going to be in Point tomorrow for the broadcast at the Tap Room in Stevens Point, in the Point Brewery. So we're looking forward to you stopping by and saying hello there, and then we'll be there for the Bach Run on Saturday. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree. And you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience in this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes.
Brian Kelly left Odyssey.
Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We are in Indianapolis, Indiana. Here for the NFL Scouting Combine. If you're out and about this weekend and you're in lacrosse, probably going to stop into Buzzard Buildings, right? That's where you're going to head if you're in the area. Great place to go. If you've never been there, then I highly recommend it. If you have been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we were talking last night as Mike and I went to dinner, which was an absolutely fabulous dinner. We were talking soups, and one of the things that I keep bringing up every time somebody talks to me about beer cheese soup, man, that's a place I go. That's Buzzard Billy's. They got a fantastic Wisconsin beer cheese soup. I mean, there's a lot of other good food there, but when you talk about one of the specialties, oh, so good. So good. Buzzard Billy's at Pearl Street in La Crosse, Wisconsin. That's downstairs. Upstairs, I go upstairs. You can either do the chocolate espresso martini or the Snickers martini or the chocolate mint martini. There's so many different things they have upstairs for all of the craft cocktails. Plus, it's set in a 1950 style cocktail lounge. So both just awesome. Buzzard Billy's downstairs, Starlight Lounge upstairs, Pearl Street in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Stop it. Heather's the GM over there. Tell Heather we said hi. Heather's got all kinds of great cocktail ideas and different specialties. You got Buzzard Billy Bucks now that they are doing, so you can kind of earn rewards points along the way. So much good stuff right there. Buzzard Billy's in La Crosse on Pearl Street. Fantastic stuff. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Going back to our discussion with Lauren. By the way, Lauren was fantastic from CBS in Green Bay. But I'm watching the scroll, and I'm watching the text line as we're talking. And as I had mentioned earlier today, it's not breaking news. For James, who said, oh, that's great breaking news. It's not breaking news. It's rumors, innuendos, all that kind of stuff. But we know that the Packers are not a traditionally high-volume trade team. We're not breaking any ground here, right? So to say it is highly unlikely, that's what was specifically stated to me. It's highly unlikely that the Packers are going to do anything via trade. Some of the trade value for some of the tires that they've kicked is just way too steep, or right now anyway, not a feasible possibility. And the Packers don't want to part with the high draft choices if they can avoid it. What was a little bit, I don't want to say surprising to me, was that the thought is they're going to address one of the needs in free agency. And I said, just one? And I said, yeah, they'll probably make it might be a splash. Okay, it might be a helpful splash in free agency, but it's going to be one, most likely, free agent who they've got an eye on. The specifics were not there. But the rest of it will be built through the draft. So I'm watching, and like JJ said, if Green Bay gets demolished in the division again this season, then I think that you would end up changes would be needed. If the Packers don't finish higher in the division, and to do that, you would then need to beat Detroit and or Minnesota at least once. It's at least split with those teams. If you keep getting dominated in the division and the season tends to go the way it just did without an injury to your quarterback, if all things were equal like right now, I got to think that they might be in a little bit different mindset at the end of next season versus where they're at this season about making changes. Now, again, it's all speculation. All speculation. But when you brought that up, and man, it kind of makes me think that if you're Ed Policy and you're coming in, and Ed's been there. It's not like Ed's all of a sudden brand new. He's coming from out of town. Ed's been there. He's already inside those walls. But if you're looking at this going, we're banging our head against the wall, doing the same thing and expecting different results, yeah, you may come in and put a different thumbprint on the organization. I don't think Ed Policy has any intention right now of coming in and rocking the boat. I think what he is looking at is the same thing that Mark Murphy was looking at when he came in. Everything is steady. Just keep the train on the tracks. Keep striving to get better. You don't want to come in and just make moves to make moves. But if you have another season the way this one just went, where you barely get a win in the division, you get skunked by the two teams ahead of you, it appears that, say, maybe Ben Johnson is even better and more magical as a head coach than maybe what he's even being given credit for at this point. And the development of Caleb Williams comes along. And I got to think, that could end up being a tipping point. I would not put that out of the realm of possibility. And again, go ahead.
Well, this is what I've brought up the last couple of days, too. This has been framed as year 3 of a year 3 plan, right? Or a 3-year plan. Jordan Love, all of these things are culminating. And if this offseason feels the same and this upcoming season feels the same, I think Packers fans are going to have a real license to bitch and wonder what the heck, what have we been building and going for here?
I would agree. And again, that's because you're seeing the same thing. Because it gives people legitimacy in the complaints of put whatever underline it is you have. I think they should make a change because blank and then put it in there. Our buddy Gerard calls and says he doesn't think Matt LaFleur is the answer. He doesn't think he's the head coach to lead him to the next level. Some say Matt LaFleur is, a great coordinator, but maybe not the absolute ultimate when it comes to leader. I mean, whatever reason that it is a fan has, if it ends up the same way as it did this past season, it gives that argument legitimacy. But I don't think, like right now, that's why I even brought it up to Lindsay, who lives in Green Bay, or to Lauren, I'm sorry. I don't. There's no hot seat, and people want to act like going into the season like Matt LaFleur's on a hot. Matt LaFleur's not on a hot seat. At the end of the season, he could be on a hot seat, but this right now going into the season, he's not on a hot seat, not at all. And the reason I could say at the end of the season, because he's been here. He's not a brand new coach. Brand new coaches get a couple of years to work it out. He's not a brand new coach, so. Yeah, you could make a change because coaches know you're hired to be fired. But he going into the season, no, he's not on a hot seat whatsoever. Not whatsoever. 877-867-1670. We'll get back at it. Coming up here, bottom of the hour. Who we got? We got our buddy Chuck Freeman.
Let's talk a little baseball.
We're going to talk a little baseball.
This has been all football all week, which normally would wear me out, but the guests and the comment, it's been so great. But I'm excited to listen to a little Brewers talk.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for some Brewers. So yesterday, speaking of sunny, warmer weather, and you didn't get a chance to hear it, but just before we went on the air yesterday, we had one hell of a thunderstorm down here. And first of all, I love thunderstorms, so it was nice to get a thunderstorm, which tells you spring is around the corner. But then it hailed, and it sounded like this roof was caving in, like there was construction going on in here. It was coming down. But we had thunderstorms down here yesterday, so it's going to be nice to talk a little bit, about warmer things in baseball and kind of get a few Brewers updates, and we'll check in with Chuck Freimund when we come back. Speaking of warmer weather, Viroqua Hills Golf Course. If you have not signed up yet, it's a 3rd annual Bill Michaels Open coming Saturday, May 10th. And if you haven't gotten your foursome in yet, get your foursome in as soon as you can. From what I understand, they're selling really, really well. And last year, this is what happened. Last year, we talked about it, started off a little slow, and then within 2 weeks, boom, it sold out. Then I had people calling me going, hey, did you talk about it? Well, we quit talking about it because you couldn't get in it anymore. So there's no sense in bringing it up other than the fact that we're going to be there. But if you didn't get in last year and you're listening to me now, call Ryan right now, 608-637-7615, 608-637-7615. It's the third annual Bill Michaels Open, Saturday, May 10th in Viroqua at the beautiful hidden gem in the state of Wisconsin for golf courses, Viroqua Hills Golf Course, voted one of the top 50 by NBC Golf. Make sure you give Ryan a call, 608-637-7615, and get your foursome in now. Talking Brewers coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
If you don't have the budget to just go out and kind of just, fill every hole, you're going to have to build from within or build from your trades or whatever. There's ways to disrupt the other team by having an offense that can beat you in many ways.
Those are the words. Pat Murphy talking about the team's, payroll or lack thereof and the way they have to fill some of the holes. Speaking of filling up the hole, it's Birdie Boys, B-O-Y-Z, Birdie Boys Indoor Golf Facility right there on Pilot Court in Waukesha, just south of the Waukesha County Airport. Go to Birdie Boys, B-O-Y-Z, indoorgolf.com. 6 different simulators, including simulators that have Wisconsin's Whistling Straits, Erin Hills, Century World, all on them as well. They've got a full bar, kitchen, TVs, all that kind of stuff. Make it a great day out there, specifically over the weekends. They have leagues available, scrambles available, and whether you want to go in there and work on your shot or you want to get involved in a league, you can do all of that at Birdie Boys, B-O-Y-Z, birdieboysindoorgolf.com. That is birdieboysindoorgolf.com, and a guy that loves to golf. I know that for a fact. Our buddy Chuck Freimund from the Locked On Brewers podcast joining us on the hotline. Chucker, how you doing, pal?
We get any scrambles? It's been a while since we've been on the
We have not played in one in a while. But yeah. we might have to. Maybe I'll take you to. The Bill Michaels Open is on May 10th in Viroqua. Maybe I'll take you up there with me.
Oh, there we go.
You ever played the Viroqua Hills Golf Course?
No, I've never been there, but I mean that it's a great area. There's no doubt about it.
Yep, hidden gem. Maybe we'll take you up there and stuff you full of some meatball subs.
Oh, there we go. You had over to Eau Claire at all this summer?
I'd like to. Yeah, I'm going to be in Eau Claire probably over the summer at some point. I'm doing some stuff with our friends at Marquardt RV, but I would love to get back to Wild Ridge and play that course because I love that course. No doubt.
I haven't played that since in 4 or 5 years. I was just telling that to Shannon the other day. It's like, got to get up to Wild Ridge and play some golf, man. Up to Eau Claire, up into the great northwestern part of the state. Awesome area.
Right. No, I completely agree. Awesome area out in Arizona. You've got the Brewers, nothing to really write home about right now. You've got a few high spots, a few low spots. But what is your impression of spring training thus far?
Well, Vinny Capra is like Mr. February so far. He's the guy, we're looking for a third baseman, and Vinny Capra, his name is emerging. And I've talked about him sparingly on my podcast this past winter, and I was like, what is Vinny Capra going to bring to the table? Right. So far, every year there's like one guy who just shines, a guy you may never heard of, or a guy who's got his last shot. And he's 28 years old, and this might be his last shot. Who comes in and just hits the cover of the baseball, does everything right, and then he makes the team. And 1 month of the season, you're tired of seeing him.
Right, exactly.
One of those guys.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before. Like guys will just play their asses off, and even guys that have made the squad, then all of a sudden come, the end of April, going into May, they're 0 for 15, and they look like they look terrible. And I agree with you. We've seen it happen again. So I get, and let's be honest, pitching has not caught up to hitting yet. They're just pitchers are just out there trying to throw strikes at this point and trying to get a little bit of their velocity up. More than that, you don't see. If you've got a guy raking right now, if you're raking at the end of spring training, okay, then you open my eyes a little bit more. Right now, I'm just glad guys are making contact and are scoring a few runs.
Yeah, I don't read too much into these spring training numbers. Capra's 4 of 10. He's got 3 home runs, a couple of 2-run blasts, hit one off Yamamoto yesterday of the Dodgers. I just don't look into these numbers that much. I think they're pitching. You can look at Craig Yoho the other day, and he had a nice little changeup going for him, stuff like that. But people get all excited sometimes, and they say, well, how come this guy's not playing? Or why is this guy batting leadoff? Or why is this guy starting a game?
Right.
don't. It's 6 weeks. We haven't even hit March 1st yet. and I feel like we've been going at this for like a month now.
Right. And spring training does feel, when you first get there, you're like, this is great. And then after like 2 weeks, you're like, this is hell. It's long. It's like, man.
Sometimes two innings.
Yeah. It's like, wow, this is long. And, and early on spring training games, you get a chance to see one of your fan favorites once, for an inning, maybe two. And usually when they're done, their day's done. They're out, they leave the dugout. They're pretty much walking to the facility, and either they're going to go work on something or they're done for the day and then back at it the next day. But it's like games, right? That's why until they split the camp and they send the minor leaguers back to the minor league camp and everything, and they've made some decisions, I don't get that juiced about it. What I am excited about is Woodruff is throwing the ball, and there haven't been anything, major setbacks or anything. It's not that I'm expecting him to come back and light the world on fire, but I'm good to see that Woodruff's throwing the ball, and he's pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and Bill, he's drawn some rave reviews and throwing the ball down there too. He's pitching pain-free. He's throwing the ball well, and I don't think he's going to be ready for opening day and be ready to go then. But the fact that things are moving in the right direction. His first day of camp, he came out, and this was 2 weeks ago. He said, well, I want to dispel rumors that I've had setbacks and all that. No, I'm right on pace. I'm ready to go. Yelich said the same thing. So if Brandon Woodruff is able to be somewhat of what we saw the Brandon Woodruff in the past, and you put him in that rotation, he's the best pitcher in the rotation.
Yeah.
He's your number one guy.
Right.
If he's like he once was. We'll see how he comes back. But he's passing all the tests with flying colors so far.
Right. Yeah, everything then trends in the right direction. And going back to what you just made, the comment of Christian Yelich, no setbacks either. And Christian, from what little I've seen, now I try to pay attention to it on Brewers.com and such, but from what little I've seen, he looks a little thicker, like he's been working out, and he looks a little more energized. And I know everybody doesn't, but a couple of years ago when I was down there, he didn't look that. He looked like he was going through the motions and just trying to gingerly get into things. It looks like he's attacking things this year.
Yeah, he's trying to dispel the falsehood he says out there that he's injury prone.
Right.
Well, yeah. He's the problem with him is, if you don't want to call it injury prone, then what is it? Because he'll play like for 2 weeks, and then he's got to sit out because of the bad back, or he's got to sit out. The back is aching up, and then he's going on the injured list.
Right.
So it's been a bad back. We're all hoping that the surgery that he had, and he had it done in August last year, that's going to be the cure-all, and he's going to be able to play again. Now, I would think that, Bill, in that opening series against the Yankees, he's probably going to be a DH. He's going to be DHing.
And I'm good with that.
I don't see him. Yeah, I'm good with that, too. He's not playing first base, but he's going to DH, and he's going to play some outfield later on, but, break him in. But he's another guy, he says he is targeting for opening day. So that would be great. And just got to see, there's some money on the line there. The Brewers are paying him, so we need to get some production out of him.
Talking with our guy Chuck Freeman from the Locked On Brewers podcast. You can find it over on YouTube as well, Locked On Brewers. So Chuck, overall, the pitching staff has not been great, but then again, like I said, I really don't worry about pitching until maybe 2.5-3 more weeks, because they're just trying to get the ball over and they're trying to pinpoint their spots. And there are times where you've done it too, where you talk to pitchers, they're not even throwing breaking stuff. They're just out there trying to make sure that they can get the fastball in the corners. And obviously there's a lot of talk about this whole intelligence system now with the challenges and so. How do you like that right now with what's going on in Major League Baseball and the challenges for balls and strikes?
Oh, are you talking about this, the automatic umpires down there that they have? These, you know what? I don't know. I'd rather have, but I'll tell you what. Those umpires got such the human umpires, man. Some of these guys just have such huge egos.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about the major league umpires, and I'm sure it happens at other levels as well. But gosh, man, and you get tired of seeing some of these guys day in, day out. I cover the team regular basis, and some of these guys are just looking for a fight. At least with the automated umpires, there's nobody to argue with right there.
Right.
But I just want to. Every strike zone is different with these human, when you got the human in, but that's the way baseball was built.
Right.
The human element. I love that there's instant replay and that you can correct a wrong out there. But, the strike zone, but it's always been that way. The strike zone has been all over the map for so many years, and these umpires have always been looking for a fight or somebody. So I don't know. I'd rather keep the human element into it.
See, I would too. And I like that as long as it's consistent. I think we've all said that. Look, if you're going to call wide strike zones, do it for everybody. I'm good with that. What I do think is going to be the byproduct of this, we're going to see more balls in play again, which makes baseball more exciting. And I think that might be the ultimate goal of Major League Baseball. But I think we're going to end up seeing more balls out and over the plate, more opportunities to put the ball in play. It doesn't matter how fast you're throwing it. I'm kind of excited about what the offense might look like, not just in Brewers' backyard, but just overall offense in baseball. We may see even more score. I also think the days of innings pitched, massive amounts of strikeouts, no hitters, I think those are, because last year we didn't have many no-hitters in baseball. Those are kind of slowly coming to an end because of the conversion of baseball, the analytics of baseball, the now technological side of baseball. And that's a little bit, to me, a little bit of a negative byproduct of what baseball's doing.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, you got Paul Skeens out there for the Pirates throwing BBs out there. You want to see him finish it off. I mean, if you're a competitor, if you're a player, like the Brewers had the combined no-hitter a couple of years ago with Corbin Burns and Josh Hader. Yeah, to me, I still look at it. Juan Nieves has got the only no-hitter in Brewers baseball history. That combined no-hitter, I just take that with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean much. I know it's an accomplishment you do with a team end and all that, but you know, I don't. If I'm out there on the mound, I don't care if I'm 135 pitches, and I got a no-hitter going, and I've never had a shot at it before, or even if I have, I'm trying to go out there and put my name in the record books and get a no-hitter and put my name in. I don't want to be taken out. And these pitchers always are like, well, you know, I can understand why I'm taken out. You know, I'm just here to pitch and do my job. No, I want to stay, keep me in the game.
Right. No, I used to love watching guys not want to give up the baseball. Which was also fantastic. They'd get into arguments with their manager at the Hill. Third base position still a little bit up in the air for the Milwaukee Brewers. What do you see happening?
Well, Vinny Capra right now would be the starting third baseman because he's won it through a couple of games.
He just won the Gold Glove and the MVP in spring training after 2 weeks.
He's won the MVP of the Cactus League so far, so he'd be my third base. But I mean, I'm looking at Durbin. I really think Patterns out as a second baseman more so, but I think Durbin's going to give them a shot, and he's the guy they got in the Devin Williams trade. Oliver Dunn's going to bid on that. There's going to be a few guys. Of course, Mr. Versatile, Andrew Monasterio can play anywhere, and he's going to make a run at that. And he's just basically a utility guy. I think Vinny Capra's got a real shot at being, if he keeps this up.
Yeah.
And we'll see where he's at the end of April then, as where he is. But right now he's the leading candidate, I think, for that third base job. You know, you hear rumblings of the Brewers interested in Ryan McMahon. Is Colorado going to trade him? Who knows? You know, that might be a deadline. That might be something we talk about all summer up to the deadline if the Brewers need a third baseman. But I was surprised a little bit, mildly, but I guess I should have been, that they didn't fix the third base spot. And here we are, a bunch of no-names over at that position right now.
After listening to Pat Murphy coming into this segment where he said, hey, when you don't have this, you don't have that, you got to, grow, and talking about going from within after the whole discussion of Mark Attanasio basically saying, we just don't have the funding to do it. I don't want to ask if that's died down, but has that just gradually become accepted? Or are people, at least in your world, when it comes to the Locked On Brewers podcast, still pissed off? Like, you've reduced payroll twice over the last 2 years. What are you doing? And why are you doing this to a team that seems like it's only a couple of pieces away from actually getting over the top, and instead you're regressing?
Well, I think it'll intensify if this team doesn't win the division title or misses the playoffs.
Yeah.
It'll intensify in next offseason. Well, you've made cutbacks. You traded away Corbin Burns. You traded away Devin Williams. Willie Adames, and I certainly understand all three of those moves for the Brewers. I get it's a baseball problem too. I like to see the Brewers payroll be a little bit more than $105 million.
Right.
I think it's a baseball problem as well. And we'll see when the bargaining agreement opens up in 2026. If that's the case, that players union, they don't want to give up anything. But until then, markets like that. But then the argument is, if Milwaukee keeps winning division titles and going to the postseason, the argument from the Players Association is like, hey, Milwaukee's doing it.
Right.
Now, how come more teams, they're doing it right? There's not a financial issue, so they're not going to give up any of that.
Right.
Players Association. And I think this is something we're just going to have to live with in Major League Baseball. I mean, you knew Bud. 94, he put his foot down, and then he eventually gave in.
Yeah. He gave in because the owners were losing money, and they didn't want to lose money. To me, I'm thinking, and I know there's been a discussion like, would they be willing to lose an entire season if it came to getting a salary cap and a salary floor? I don't think owners want a salary floor. Players certainly would if they end up giving into a salary cap. But the players have made so much money, Chuck, and this was brought up to me, like, they don't care if they go on strike for a year, they're not getting a check, but they don't care. They got a lot of money in the bank. If they've managed it right, losing a season with them is basically a season off, and they'll go bask in the glory of Arizona or Florida or California, wherever the hell they live.
But if you're a guy like Bregman making $30 to $40 million a year, and you're at the last days of your career, I mean, you're 30 years old,
right?
$30 million is $30 million,
right?
That's just another chunk of your career. You still, these guys, these players, they want to get what they can get right now, and they are going to continue to grab and grab and grab and grab. So, in one sense, I hear what you're saying, but in the other sense, these guys, they don't want to strike. Right. They want to. They want to earn. They want to continue to earn because there's such a short window they can earn money.
Chuck, where are they going to find you, man?
Bill, get us on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're the #1 Brewers podcast out there for a reason, because the great Brewer fans. Wherever you download your audio podcast, we're on there, Locked On Brewers. And, of course, our growing YouTube page. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll take you right into the Locked On Brewers studio, where we have that 30-minute show nightly right there on YouTube.
Fantastic stuff, Chucker. We appreciate it. We'll talk again on regular time next week and then kind of go from there, okay?
You got it, Bill.
Appreciate it, pal. There you go. Chuck Freimund from the Locked On Brewers podcast joining us for a couple of minutes. We're going to take a quick break. We're broadcasting live. We're in Indianapolis, the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. It's brought to you by our friends over there at MIBA, as in Michael, MIBA, manufacturing hydrodynamic bearings for the power generation and industry right here in our own backyard. That is Grafton, Wisconsin. And by the way, they're looking for good, qualified CNC machinists, and they're paying top dollar. So check it out. They're looking to add you right now. You can search for them on Indeed by searching MIBA Industrial Bearings in Grafton. MIBA Industrial Bearings in Grafton, Wisconsin. Or pick up the phone and call 262-337-2210. 262-337-2210. Again, 262-337-2210. That is MIBA Hydrodynamic Bearings for the power generation industry right there in Grafton, Wisconsin. More from Indianapolis coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree, and you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience in this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. We are live. We are here in Indianapolis at the NFL Draft Combine. And we're at the top of the hour. We're going to get to the top of the hour, and when we come back, we're going to start talking some more NFL draft. And this time we're going to go with Chad Reuter, the draft analyst for the NFL, and he is here on site. He's going to join me over here at the table. But we're going to talk some NFL draft, Packers place in it, some of the guys that may or may not be there when the Green Bay Packers go in the first round. If they go in the first round and don't trade out of it, which seems unlikely, but you never know. Stay tuned. 2 hours down, 2 hours yet to go. We're live in Indianapolis with more to come in the NFL Draft Combine right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's game day for the Bucs. They will host Denver tonight at Fiserv Forum. It's the first of two meetings between the teams, with the second coming in late March out in Denver. Nuggets come into the night having gone 9-1 in their last 10 games. Bucs enter having just had their 4-game winning streak snapped the other night in Houston. Tip tonight at Fiserv Forum, set for 7. Turning to the 11th-ranked Badgers, they're practicing again today as they begin to prepare for a huge test on Sunday in East Lansing against Michigan State. Spartans sit atop the Big Ten at 14-3. Badgers are in third at 12-5. Wisconsin has gotten there because of a retooled offense that's led by John Tonje and John Blackwell. But Coach Greg Gard says they still know who they are at their core.
Evolution offensively gets the attention this year in the headlines, but how we've anchored and understand the foundation of this place and what works and stayed true to that. Even though we've morphed and evolved in, the schematic parts of the game, we still understand, I think, what it takes to win in this league and win consistently in this league and what works at Wisconsin.
Gard and the Badgers have just 3 games left in the regular season. After facing the Spartans, they go to Minnesota and face Penn State in the season finale at home.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the third largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong. Well, the NFL Combine is ongoing down in Indianapolis. Former Badger safety Hunter Wohler meeting with the media today, and will do on-field workouts tomorrow. Two other former Badgers, lineman Joe Huber and Jack Nelson, also in Indy. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Welcome back in, and we are live. We're in Indianapolis, inside the Indiana Convention Center, adjacent to Lucas Oil Field, where the potential draftees are all getting ready to work out, to do their things and run their 40s and all that kind of good stuff. And we are sitting here inside the convention side of things, doing the program. Tomorrow we're going to be up in Stevens Point at Point Brewing inside the tasting room, and then on Saturday we'll be there for the start of the Bach run, so we're looking forward to that. Joining me here at the table, though, as we get back into the draft side of things, and really the reason that we're here, is Chad Reuter from the NFL and NFL Draft Analyst. How you doing? Oh, let me give you that. Okay, there you go.
I'm great, but I'm where's the Point beer here? I don't see it. But
we would be a hit. One year we were at Super Bowl, and we had a sponsor of meat in Wisconsin, and they sent us summer sausage, like jerky sticks.
Yeah.
And they sent us like 20 cases of that stuff to Super Bowl, and they said, "Here, you can spread a little Wisconsin while you're there."
Wow.
It lasted on a table behind me all of about an hour and a half. It was, in the media, man, if it's free, it's for me. And they grubbed out like they were going to the electric chair later that night.
Yeah, no, I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even need any, substances to enjoy being here. This is the best week of the year for me. My Super Bowl, in terms of being able to see people, being able to see the players up close, and really being able to gauge the true athleticism and their movement skills. And a lot of people call it like the underwear Olympics. It doesn't matter, but no, I'm a big believer in not just like if he ran a good 40 time or not, but really seeing the guy's movement skills, because that's so important. They're not asked to do things in their scheme necessarily that teams need them to do. So you see them going through all these drills and see their true hip fluidity, so that kind of stuff, and that that makes a difference. That's why this thing exists. So yeah, it's a great week. It's a great week to be here.
So it was funny because I asked you earlier. I said, "Is there like somebody you're really wanting to pay attention to?" You said, "No, they're like my kids. I love all of it."
That's right.
You just want to see them all. It doesn't really matter. You want to see if somebody jumps off the page at you.
And it's just like you want to see how fast. You want to see cornerback. You want to see Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. He's not a big guy, but how fast is he? If he's truly fast and physical and all this stuff, then you got to say, okay, this guy's legitimate prospect. Then you got the big dudes, and just being right next to them when these guys are jumping 10 feet and they're 350 pounds or whatever, or they're jumping vertical jump 3. It's pretty amazing. And just to see these guys up close and really see how they take care of themselves, what their true athleticism is. Between the small guys, the large guys, and the guys in between are kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. But they all have their great stories. Most of these kids have worked really hard to get here, and they're great kids. And getting to see them and talk to them, it's a great experience.
The two things that I've always said about the combine: one is to see if there's like a diamond in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is to confirm what you've already seen on tape.
Yes. So typically every day after the workouts, I put an article in NFL.com, stock up and stock down. But typically, in those kind of articles, you would think 3 up and 3 down, but really it's more like 5 up and maybe 2 down, because most guys are confirming, like you said, what they are, and fewer guys don't meet expectations that actually exceed expectations, and maybe the math doesn't work to some people, but it's the truth. Like they're really work hard to be in good shape here. So yeah, but like you said, out of the 330 guys here, 300 of them 290 of them are what you thought they were. So
you mentioned a guy like the kid out of Kentucky, and the prototypical size is about 6 foot with a burner that can go up against wide receivers.
Yeah,
he's not.
He's not.
So how much does his size become detrimental to him then? Because you look at a guy. Like going back to the days of a guy like Randy Moss, you go to taller wide receivers, the 50-50 ball then becomes their deal if he's your number one cover guy.
Right.
So that's why he has to have that athleticism and the leaping ability at the apex to be able to go up and knock those things down.
He's 5'11", not 6 foot, and people are out there saying, well, that's 1 inch difference. What
Huge.
does it matter? It matters to teams.
Yeah.
It does. And it can get a little out of control. Their minimum height and length requirements can get a little bit out of control. Like, really, it's 32 and 3/4 inch arms versus 33. You're not going to draft a guy because of that. But at some point, you have to kind of look at the limitations. Ron Wolf, back in the day was, don't draft exceptions, because then pretty soon you have a team full of exceptions, right? And,
right.
But a guy like Hairston, he's not big, but he's competitive. And if you're a 5'10", 5'11" corner and you're competitive, you don't care how tall that receiver is. You're going to go up and play. So a guy like that probably won't be a first-round pick. But look, if Green Bay goes edge or something else in the first round, they're going to be looking at corners at the bottom of the second round. They're going to be looking at Hairston. They're going to be looking at Noel Williams from Cal. They're going to be looking at some of these guys. And they like taller corners. So a guy like Noel Williams might be a good fix for them if they're not going first round.
The big thing that you can find out about a guy like Hairston is, does he have a 36-inch vertical?
Right.
Because if he's got a 36-inch vertical going against a guy who doesn't, he's already gained the extra inch that he needs to be able to become a good defender.
And in NFL teams, I mean, there's pass interference calls, obviously, but like on every play, you could call holding or pass interference or something. So if you're 5'11" and you can literally climb on the guy and use your vertical, but also be physical with the guy, you can do your job and look, Jair Alexander's like 5'10" and he's fine doing his job, so it just depends on the player, and it's not just about height.
So Packers need corner, they need edge rusher, they need a wide receiver, number one. The next question then becomes, because I know they're looking at now offensive line.
Yes,
it's the rumors that I got last night was that they're definitely looking at an offensive lineman or two.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, okay, you're not throwing darts at a dartboard. Maybe down the list is maybe a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
But out of this group, we were talking about Igbuka earlier, and I keep hearing his name tossed around with the Green Bay Packers about that level of the draft at about 23, maybe a few before, a few after.
Yep.
Give me your thoughts on Igbuka and what you've seen versus what you're looking for out of a kid like that.
It's funny. When Jackson Smith and Jigba came out, some people thought he wasn't an explosive player. He's a, middle of the field slot player or whatever. But you have to remember what they're asked to do at Ohio State. And Igbuka kind of took that role this year because Jeremiah Smith's out there making big plays on the edge, right? But Igbuka's more explosive than I think he was even being able to show at Ohio State. So I have a feeling he's going to be more than just a move the chains kind of guy, at the next level. So if they were able to get him, in my opinion, what they really need is a veteran guy who's going to be in the right place at the right time for Jordan Love. That's what they need. They don't, and he's sort of a professional. These guys coming out of Ohio State are professional receivers when they come out. So if they end up with him, he could end up being that guy, despite not being a veteran.
The biggest thing about him that I keep hearing from the people that I've talked to is he's a great route runner.
Yeah.
He is where you're supposed to be.
Right.
At the right place at the right time. And he has the ability to turn on a ball that's in the air.
Right.
And has the hands to pluck it out of the air. So that's all the things the Packers love. Plus he's a downfield blocker. They love that as well.
Right.
The old adage up there is if no block, no rock. So he's a guy that can do it downfield and take over that Christian Watson spot, not with the speed, but with the ability to block downfield.
And I wonder, his speed will be interesting to see if he confirms or is maybe a little slower. And if he's a little slower maybe than people thought, then Green Bay has a chance to get him, at 23, or even if they trade down. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Ohio State guys usually run pretty well, so I don't think that's going to be the case. But you never, it's. That's why the draft is fun, right?
I'm going to ask you this. Because we've seen these 4.2, high 4.2s and these 4.3s now. Is 4.4 just average?
It depends. Not to get too sciencey, but it really is force equals mass times acceleration.
Right.
So if you're a 200-pound receiver, 4.4 is phenomenal. Xavier Worthy ran what he did last year. Dude's 170 pounds, right? So it's really dependent on weight. You have to look at the weight and then look at the speed. A freak like Calvin Johnson's 230 pounds, and he's running in the 4.3s. Now that's
right.
But if Egbuka runs, 4.42 at 190 pounds, totally fine. I mean, it's not 4.3, it's not super sexy, but that's good enough for what he is, and that checks the box for him.
Right. Also, it talks about getting out of your stance, and in addition to that, the move that you have.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's why we talk about veterans where we're at.
Yeah.
It's what makes Devontae Adams so good.
That's right.
He wasn't a burner. He wasn't an apex guy. He was a guy that had great technique and could get off the line of scrimmage.
Right. And a lot of things you're seeing now during football telecasts and during coverage of the draft. What does a guy run on the GPS? They're showing the GPS miles per hour at his top speed. They're saying, oh, that's really fast. But what that doesn't get to is how long it took him to get to that speed.
Right.
And that's important. So like the 40 isn't going to go away because of GPS, because you need that acceleration out of the gate.
Right.
So yeah, it's still important that you're in the acceptable range for on that test.
Packers looking for an edge rusher. The development of Lucas Van Ness. I know that, and you were over there. I was listening to Brian Gutekunst, and I mentioned this earlier when he said, we're looking forward to that big jump. Like he knows something.
Yeah.
My question is, why are we looking for a big jump out of Lucas Van Ness? I mean, I know he had the busted up thumb last year, and that hampered him. But he didn't jump off the page at me.
Yeah.
So tell me why in this third year we're looking at Lucas Van Ness going, okay, he's going to make that jump.
Well, I think you could have said the same thing about Rashawn Gary. Okay. And I think some guys, it takes a little bit longer to make that adjustment, especially when you're in two different defensive schemes your first 2 years.
Yeah.
So I think if he does make that change, he's going to have to learn to use his hands better, and he's going to have to just work on the explosion out of his stance. And look, when he was at Iowa, to me, when he came out of Iowa in the 3-4 that they were really running in Green Bay, he's a 5 technique. He's the big guy kind of in the middle, right? Now you're asking him to be a little more outside and be bendy, and that really wasn't what he was. So he works on his agility, he works on his hands, and hopefully he can make that, that next step. Now, do I think they should take a designated pass rusher? Absolutely. Yes. And I think you let Lucas, go run early downs. You shift him inside. I think shifting him inside on a third down would make so much sense. Then you pick a guy like Devin Ezeraku out of Boston College, who Jeff Hafley coached. If they can get him in the first round and then work that rotation of, look, the Eagles showed everybody, you need a rotation of pass rushers. You need big men in the middle. So you keep getting pass rushers, you keep finding defensive tackles, and you try to dominate the game in the trenches.
And it appears that defensive tackles are aplenty in this draft.
Yes, you can find them all over this draft. 39, I think, here this year at the combine, and usually the number is like 25 or so.
Yeah. Offensive lineman. I know they're going to be looking for an offensive lineman or two.
Yeah.
If you find a true center, great. If not, the Packers have some adjustment to make without Josh Myers.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Jacob Monk coming out. I'm glad they took him on day 3. He's a versatile guy. So maybe he's not the starter, but he's going to compete for it, which is great. But yeah, I think they should be looking at centers. Center isn't the deepest draft this year, deepest part of the draft this year. But interior linemen overall aren't, but I think if they're happy with Morgan at guard and they find a center they like in the 3rd or 4th round, Drew Kendall, another Boston College guy that was with Hafley, would be a nice pick in the 3rd or 4th round if they decide to go that way. So there's options available for them, but it's not the deepest draft in that area.
Talking with Chad Reuter from the NFL and NFL draft analyst. I want to get your take. Packers last year, what everybody said was stole the running back with Marshawn Lloyd. Now, he didn't play this past year, so I'm anxious to see him come back. He battled back, and then he had the appendicitis, and it just never got going.
Yeah.
But what did you think of him when they picked him up last year?
Well, the value, he went within a few picks of where my 7th-round mock draft was. So he was picked right in the right area.
Right.
For that team, it's funny because in the 2nd and 3rd round, they're like, off the ball linebacker, safety, off the ball linebacker, running back, all the positions that are, quote, lesser positions or less highly valued positions, they went in that group. And I wasn't sure that made a whole lot of sense for them. With A.J. Dillon, they brought A.J. Dillon back. Now, obviously, he ended up getting hurt too. But, like, I think they could have got better value. They could have picked up a running back in day 3 for the value and picked up a corner or a receiver or something like that in round 3 last year. But Lloyd was perfect value where they got him. I really like him. The good combination of toughness and explosiveness. He's got a little wiggle to him, even though he's got size. So when he gets on the field, I think he's going to be a good find for him.
That's my point, is that it's almost like getting another draft choice, because putting him behind Josh Jacobs, if he works himself into that backup role behind over Emmanuel Wilson, I think he's going to be really, really good. I like the offensive kind of firepower that they have with Kraft and Musgrave and the ability there. If they straighten out the offensive line and they get one more guy, that number 1 wide receiver, knock on wood with no injuries, then I think that, short of Jordan Love in the development there, I think they're ready to take off. Give me your thoughts on Jordan Love, by the way.
Well, when they picked him, I gave the pick an A- because I'm like, well, look, they could have taken T. Higgins and they could have got that receiver that they wanted.
You just made a whole lot of people in Wisconsin go, ugh.
Yeah,
just so you know.
And for 2 years, I would be on with different stations and I would say Jordan Love was a good pick. Jordan Love was a good pick. I keep saying it over and because I thought he would be gone by the time, they had to move up and get him. But I really liked him. I liked his attitude. I liked his on-field demeanor. Obviously, the physical tools are there. He's going to keep getting better. And the better the receivers around him, the better the line in front of him, the better the running game, the better he'll become. So I was really happy they took him. I think the future is really bright with him, and I think they're going to continue to people are going to continue to like what they say.
I'm looking for that jump this year.
Yeah.
The first year was obviously phenomenal. In the second half of the season last year, got off to a funky start.
Yeah.
It never looked like things got rhythmic. The people that I've talked to, a guy like Greg Cosell, who just says, hey, he's got a great arm. He just needs to kind of rein in his footwork, and then he'll be okay, because he's not Rodgers.
Yeah.
Nobody can flick a wrist and have the ball go 70 yards on a dime via laser to receivers, but he's going to have to work at it a little bit.
Look, I don't know. They had a heck of a year.
Yeah.
Like we have an expectation being Packer fans of what a quarterback should look like.
Right.
And I tell you, there's probably 20 teams in the league who want Jordan Love on their side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, he's pretty good. And, again, you keep working on these things and you try to get better. I trust Matt LaFleur and his staff to continue doing that. And considering where they picked him up, considering the great situation that he could, learn from Rodgers one way or the other. And I just think it's a really good, and I expect this team to be making the playoffs for years to come.
Chad, appreciate it as always,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Great to have you. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Chad Reuter from the NFL and NFL draft analyst joining us here at the table. We're going to step out and we're going to be back. We got more in Indianapolis, Indiana at the 2025 NFL Draft Combine coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I hope that you never need an attorney. I really do. At some point in your life, you do, though. We all do, right? So I hope at some point, if you do need one, you call our friends over there at Levine Ice Corner. And whether it's a personal injury attorney, estate planning for like a living will or a trust or something, or just like civil litigation, if you are going after somebody or somebody's coming after you, business contracts, all that kind of stuff, just there's nobody better. And here's the reason why. And I get this all the time, like, why do you go with them as opposed to some of the big names that are out there? Well, because the big names that are out there aren't going to court for you. They're the ones that are the faces of these things. Where Brent Iceburner, whose name is on the door, he's actually going to court for you. He's the guy that you're going to call and you're going to say, Brent, I need some help. And he's going to be the guy that's going to go, I'm here to help. And he gives a damn. And he actually answers his phone. That's the reason why. So when you talk about those guys over at Levine Iceburner and girls, they've got a great thing going on over there. And they really do give a damn about their clients, where a lot of them are, you're just a number. And if your case isn't big enough, they don't want to handle it. And nada. Levine Iceburner, that's the way to go. Civil litigation, estate planning, all that kind of stuff, personal injury, 608-621-2888. 608-621-2888. Levine Iceburner. Give him a shout. Tell him we sent you. Because anything you drew out of that conversation with Chad, because Chad is unbelievably smart would be an understatement, I guess, at this point. He is completely fluid in the analytics of NFL players and prospective NFL players. But what a great guy to have on the program, Grant.
No, he's great. And I think the biggest thing that I took away was probably how to evaluate these tests that we're all supposed to care about. We know that the 40 matters, and we know that the 3-cone and all this stuff, but like, what do we do with that information? Yeah. And I thought, him kind of putting it in a context with speed and weight and height and weight, right, kind of rectifying all these numbers to make sense. I think that was the most helpful thing for me, because I want to care about the combine. I want to get excited about 40 times, but I don't really understand it.
Yeah, he brought up a good point, too. He said, how long does it take a wide receiver to get from point A to point B, even though they're running, say, 22 miles an hour? How long did it take them to get there? And that's the difference. When I went back to the running back position, we were talking with Paul Allen yesterday, and he was talking about how good and what a burst Aaron Jones has. And I've always said Aaron Jones is right now with a hop. He's like he's like an electric car. He just, boom, he takes off, and you're at top speed. Now, granted, it doesn't top out and then break away additional speed. It's just that you're at top speed and you're very quick to get through what is a momentary hole. Josh Jacobs is a little bit slower than that, but he's got longevity and he's got more power. So two really good running backs, but drastically different in the way they get from point A to point B. And that's why Chad was breaking it down, and I was fascinated to hear that, because he thinks the same thing, that, hey, if a guy runs 22 miles an hour and he can still run a 4.4 and you're flat 4.4, but were you running a flat 4.4 as you got to 30 yards in a 40-yard dash, or did you run it from the time you got out of the chute quicker than anybody, and your first 10 yards was faster than anybody? Because that really, if you've got a move and a fast first 10 yards, you're open. You don't need to be a burner. You're open because you've already juked the corner because you know where you're going as opposed to a corner trying to figure out what you're doing and what you're running. So I agree. I thought that obviously very fascinating. Coming up here is at the bottom of the hour. We got Jim Owczarski's going to join us.
Yeah, in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, Jim Owczarski's coming up here, bottom of the hour, and he's going to join us. We're going to talk a little Bucks basketball, and Bucks back on the hardwood tonight, taking on Denver down at the Fiserv Forum. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I did want to answer some text messages real quick because all this, is flying around today, and I haven't really talked to anybody via text message here in a while. So I wanted to kind of address a few things. Let's see here. This one is from Adam. Says, as somebody who lives in the Wausau area, very disappointed in you, Grant, for not coming on Friday. So Adam and Edgar are saying, Grant, you should be up there with us, but you got to produce the show. You got to be back.
Well, here's the other thing. Okay, so Ebo's on vacation,
right?
Which is great. You got vacation days, should be able to go on vacation. So Zach's been doing the morning show.
Yep.
And I've been helping him out with the final hour. Tomorrow, Zach has an appointment. So tomorrow, I'm doing the last 2 hours of the morning show.
Okay.
And then this show. And then I got to do my evening show. And if I miss any of that, especially if I miss my show, my listeners are going to be up my butt yelling at me. Right. I got to be here. That's part of the reason why I didn't feel like I could totally come down to Indy and have everything be okay, is because then it's just Zach back here, I guess, and Kate. But that's not enough for 3 shows. Like we gotta take care of things back here in the studio.
I got an email here for this is Jackie. Jackie says, you've talked me into Igbuka. Is he or this year's Cooper DeJean from last year who you wanted so desperately? I can answer that next week. I want to see what he runs, and I want to see what the analytics are. But after, sitting here and talking to Chad, yeah, kind of, if you're talking about a wide receiver. But the one thing that Chad reiterated, even off the air when we were sitting here talking, was he really, really believes, even if you don't get a top-end wide receiver, and number one, he believes you need a veteran who is in the right place at the right time to be either the safety valve or the better route runner for Jordan Love, and to help the other guys study, learn, become better along the way. And so now I'm kind of torn when you talk about getting a wide receiver. It depends on because there's really only a few available in the draft or in free agency that maybe you would really want. And since, as we heard earlier today, the likelihood of a trade for the Green Bay Packers seems to be minimal, as it was put to us, unlikely. That would kind of eliminate, unless they go ahead and cut, a guy like Devontae Adams. It would kind of eliminate Devontae Adams. You're not going to trade for him. So you kind of wonder what direction the Packers are going to be thinking, because if you go with Cooper Kupp, if you go with Godwin, if you go with some of these guys, they're more slot than they are wide. And do you move Jaden Reed wide to overcome that, and draft another guy? So it gets kind of convoluted. So, but I'll let you know early next week, because going back to what Chad said, you want to see how fast he is off the line, because I talked to a couple people over at Ohio State, and they said he's unbelievable when it comes to route running. He's the most dependable guy they've had in years when it comes to right place in the right time. If you tell him it's a 10-yard in, the time he hits the 10-yard line, you can be throwing the football because he's going in. He is. And he's got good technique at working the in. So we'll see. But, route trees in the NFL are a little bit different than what they are in college. As a matter of fact, they're vastly different. So, we'll see. But he's got really good hands. He's not going to come into the league and start dropping passes all over the place. Who he reminds me of, and I hate to say this because this is going to be a terrible, terrible, terrible comparison in consideration for Packers fans. He reminds me of Jordy Nelson. That's who he reminds me of. A great route runner with great hands. And then if he catches the football, he can be off to the races. We've seen that. But that's who he reminds me of. Because Jordy Nelson didn't come into the league with this burner mentality and this go to the apex, throwing the ball in the air kind of guy. What he reminded me of was a guy that just runs a great route. He knows the ball's coming. He has the ability to look it in the air into his hands and hang on to it. And Jordy Nelson, his first year, I think he had 1 drop. He had more drops in his second year than he did his first year. And then after that, he was the most dependable wide receiver the Packers had. And because he ran such incredibly good routes, the back shoulder became undefendable because of his ability to run. run a route. That's who he reminds me of. And, again, I don't want Packers fans putting palm to forehead going crazy saying you got to get the next Jordy Nelson, because that's very, very high praise. But that's kind of who he reminds me of, to be perfectly honest with you. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to give us a shout, please feel free to go ahead and do so. We got a lot more coming up. Jim Owczarski of the Journal Sentinel. We're going to talk a little bit of Bucks basketball. That's upcoming next, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up this portion of the program. If you're looking for an epoxy floor, you're looking at your garage, you're looking at your rec room right now, you're like, man, I really like to add something better. The rec room, maybe you really want to dress it up and make it almost elegant. Your garage, you want to make it durable. You want to make it easy to clean. That's our friends at Epoxy Flooring Done Right. Whether it's an epoxy floor or a polyurea coating, they have something for everybody. That's epoxyflooringdoneright.com. That is epoxyflooringdoneright.com. And they can go as low as 20 below. So don't think right now is not the time to do it. Nay, it's just the opposite. Get it done now, so that way when the spring cleaning happens, you just blow it off with a snow blower, or you got your house all fixed up and ready to go for summer. You start thinking about the outside then. Get a hold of our friend Sean over there at epoxyflooringdoneright.com, or call him 262-443-2852, 262-443-2852. Talking Bucks next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree. And you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP, because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience in this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
But, I'll be on the point of the attack a bit, doing my job, just try to be physical with him, make things as difficult as possible as you can for him, and trusting I got my teammates behind me. Again, we want to do a good job of setting the right tone at the beginning of the game.
Welcome back to the program. Brooke Lopez playing the Joker. Denver coming to town tonight, 5-Serve Forum. The Bucks had their 4-game win streak snapped the other night, looking to get back at it. Giannis back on the court. Joining us now on the hotline, our guy in Milwaukee from the Journal Sentinel, Jim Owczarski, making his appearance a little bit later this week than normal, just because we've been so heavy when it comes to the NFL draft and such. But nevertheless, Jim, how you doing, pal?
I'm good, Bill. As you know, and maybe some of the listeners remember, I covered the Packers for a few years, the Bengals for a few years. Combine week is always so much fun. Although I am a little bit of FOMO missing out on insider fights at the Starbucks. And I know you're throwing punches there on Radio Row,
right?
That's usual for you, but it's you got a lot going on down there.
I forgot about that because now who was involved in that?
So it was Ian Rappaport from NFL Network, and I believe Jordan Schultz from Fox. Having a heated debate over sources and things of that nature. Basically, a Twitter or X fight went into real life. It was a verbal exchange there, Bill. And look, you don't really get that in the NBA. We're too nice, I think, in the basketball world.
Yeah, ever since the Malice at the Palace, the NBA fights have been a minimal. So everybody's taken a softer approach to things.
Right.
So, well, first of all, Giannis is back. So let's talk about that because since the Chris Middleton trade, he had not really appeared very often, obviously. Give me your thoughts on Giannis coming back and how he's feeling first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he's still somewhat limited, Bill. Like the minutes restriction is going up. Doc said in Houston he was at about 32 to 34. He played just under 32 in Houston. I think he was around 35, before this injury. And while that may not seem like a lot, I mean, just a couple of days ago, Bill, against Miami, Giannis didn't go to the free throw line, and he said, he's like, well, I was trying not to maybe make too many explosive movements or cover too many miles. So he's still clearly working through something with that calf, looking toward the playoff. Honestly, yes, it's still 25 games away, but he doesn't want to be sidelined again. So, he hasn't really had the 35-point game on 65% shooting yet, Bill, but, so you can tell it's not quite all the way back for him.
So give me, when it comes to the chemistry of this team, give me your thoughts on, obviously they've added a piece and they've made deals and they're trying to kind of mix and match life after Chris has taken place. Is everything fluid right now with Doc Rivers, or does he feel like it's instantly settled and he's got a handle on this? Is really the next 25 games, all you're trying to do is hone yourself to get yourself to the postseason?
I mean, it's a little bit of both, but no, they are far from settled. I mean, I think, I think he found a starting lineup he likes, which is Taurean Prince and Kyle Kuzma in the starting lineup. Now, Taurean, for as good as he can be, still has some issues. Like, he had nothing for Tyler Hero, right, over the weekend. Taurean, for as good as a defender, team defender as he can be, he cannot guard people like that, right? So I understand starting him, however, to maybe get his shooting in the flow of things. And so that makes sense. And I think Doc is then trying to figure out, okay, who is that next guard off the bench next to Dame? And it's very quickly becoming Kevin Porter Jr., Bill. He obviously a lot of backstory with Kevin. And the Bucks are taking a bet that he can be an impact player. And already he is sort of showing his value off the bench, Bill. But so you have a starting lineup, but it's that second unit. They don't have Chris. That was why Chris was moved to the bench, was, okay, Giannis and Dame are out. Run offense through Chris. Worst case scenario, he's going to get you a bucket. And right now, Bill, with Bobby suspended, they don't really have a guy to run offense through. So when Giannis and Dame are off the court, they really are struggling to score because it's Gary Trent Jr. and Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter. And look, Brook Lopez is very good for 37. He's not 27 anymore. So Doc has to work through some rotational stuff, in my opinion, Bill, to figure out how to better create offense, in the non-Giannis and Dame minutes. And that's something, that's a game-to-game work in progress.
I know the Bucks were trying to go. We found out after the fact that the Bucks were trying to negotiate the length of this whole suspension, and they were trying to negotiate things after the suspension, whether or not he would be able to be with the team, and what could he do with the team, and if he did. And so, where does all that stay right now? I mean, because Bobby obviously is not only a guy that's important to them on the floor, but certainly, I guess it seems like they're fighting for the chemistry of not only Bobby, but for the chemistry of the guys around Bobby.
Yeah, look, so Bobby can travel. That is allowed. So we saw him in Houston.
Yeah.
He is allowed to practice, Bill. So, they've got a couple days off in between Dallas and Atlanta this coming week. I assume they're going to practice. He'll be able to get work in there. He can come to the arena, but has to leave 2 hours ahead of time, which is really a non-factor. These guys aren't really there, hours and hours ahead of a game. So, but to your point, look, Bobby is an emotional component to this team. He is a vibes guy. Like, people like being around him. He likes being around his people. So, yeah, I do think the Bucs keeping him around is part. I'm sure there's some conditioning, right? Like, if he can practice and work out, like, you're keeping him and his body in some sort of shape. And also, mentally, like, look, Bill, it's a 25-game suspension, but he's coming back with a week left in the regular season. And believe it, I can't believe I'm going to say this, maybe 2 really important games against the Detroit Pistons, and then the playoffs. Like, he needs to be engaged and on top of everything, just game-wise and teammate-wise, Bill. So, yeah, it's a tough situation for him. But, the team at least is able to have him around and be connected.
I was listening to NBA radio when I was driving down here. The thought is still that the Celtics are the team to beat, even with everything that's going on over in the Western Conference and all the crazy people out there that suddenly feel like LeBron is going to get another championship and those people are smoking grass. I still think Boston is the team to beat. Cleveland is still just kind of doing what they do. And while they're beating people and they've got the largest margin of victory on an average in the NBA, I still don't have a ton of belief in them because I think when all the bright lights come on, I think Boston's the team. But I don't think New York and Indiana and the Bucks and Detroit are at that level. Out of those teams, are the Bucks the legitimate contender to the Celtics, or is there another team that you feel would be better suited to take down the Celtics?
Bill, yeah, it's a great question. So we've talked about this a little bit. Like, when Chris was still on the team, and my assumption was he would be full strength for the playoffs at 35 minutes per game. I did feel that the Bucs' ceiling was they could beat the Celtics. They could push them and figure out a way to score enough and defend just enough. This version of the Bucs, Bill, I'm not sure. We still have to see, like, these non-Giannis and Dame minutes. They cannot go 5 minutes against the Celtics without scoring. They're going to lose by 30. And so that needs to be figured out. And I haven't seen that yet. Now, what I will say, though, is I do agree with you. I think that the Cavs have a step to take. Can they take it? I don't know. They don't have any proof of that in the playoffs either. The Knicks don't. What I do know, Bill, is when the Bucks have a playoff series, they have the best player on the floor. And in basketball, that always gives you the chance to win the series. And I'd argue at Dame's level right now, if he is not the second best player on the floor, he's the third, right? Depending on the matchup, wherever you feel, Jason Tatum is, for instance. And so, yeah, I think that will give the Bucks a puncher's chance in any series. But I have to hold out that reservation, Bill, because I knew what Chris could do against the Celtics or against the Cavs. I don't know what Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter are going to do. So I think it would be unfair or maybe just unobjective, if that's the word, to just project success on those guys. I just haven't seen it yet.
There's a guy that I keep looking at, and the fall off has been small, but it's noticeable, and that's Brook Lopez. I think Brook Lopez had his best season a couple of years ago. But I keep looking at Brook Lopez. He's still a rim protector. He still can put up the three. He still can get up and down the floor and get you some boards. I really like what Brook Lopez brings to the table. I just don't know how much more gas he has left in the tank.
Yeah, and that's, I think, an underrated part of this trade, Bill. So Kuzma is 6'10", 7-foot wingspan. Jericho Sims is 6'10", a springy kind of 7-foot wingspan type of guy. Now, I think, Bill, like when we would talk after those New York games, Brook couldn't play against the Knicks, right? Like Karl Anthony Towns, like Giannis has to defend him, and the Knicks are just running and shooting. I'd even argue to a degree, Brook maybe can't play much against the Celtics because Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis are their bigs, right? And they run. Horford's old, but he still runs, and he's not down in the post. So I think, Bill, Brook is going to be a big part. The lead-in tonight against Joker. If you're the Bucks, you love the fact that Brook Lopez can just, hey, You go defend Nikola Jokic. Go where he goes. Like, not many teams have that ability, but it is those playoff matchups, Phil, where I think they're going to protect him a little bit, maybe not play him as much. So, yeah, he's 37. There have been drop-offs, especially when Bobby's not playing. But I do think Doc is finding a way to maximize, right, what Brooke has left. Because you're right. If he's playing 37 minutes, that's not good. That's not good for anybody. If he's playing 28 to 32, maybe you go to a playoff series against the Cavs, who are huge, and he's playing 35. Like, that's good, I think. So, yeah, I think Doc has become more aware of that as the year has gone on.
Jim, always good to talk to you, my friend. We certainly appreciate it, and we will talk again next week, probably at a regular time, okay?
All right, sounds good, Bill. Enjoy the rest of your time down there.
Appreciate it, bud. There you go. Jim Owczarski, the Journal Sentinel. You can read his stuff at JS Online, but go to Jim Owczarski, at Jim Owczarski over on Twitter, over on X. Find Jim there and all the Bucs coverage right there as the Bucs continue to wind down their season, 25 games remaining and efforting towards the postseason. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We'll take a quick break, creeping up on the top of the hour. We got a lot more to come. We're not done yet by any stretch of the imagination. We are live down here in Indianapolis. If tonight, tomorrow night, maybe, possibly getting ready to head out, possibly look for a fish fry out there in the Lake Country area. That's our friends over there at Stoley's Hog Alley, Venice Beach Road in Oconomowoc. And if you're up in Watertown, they've got it up in Watertown as well, Stoll's Old 109. Both places, absolutely fantastic. And yes, they carry the salted rye bread, which I love so much. A little bit of that warm butter on there. Oh, it's so good. Potato pancake along the side. Stoley's Hog Alley, that's the place to go. Stoll's Old 109, exactly the same. Both places. Jeff and Alicia Stoll, great local business owners. Stop in at Stoley's Hog Alley or Stoll's Old 109. Tell them we said hi. More of the Bill Michaels Show live in Indy coming up next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Are you ready to shake things up at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee? All you gotta do is toss your rewards card into your favorite slots for drawing entries and a chance to be in the Roll for Riches game show. What's on the table? Oh, just $300K in cash and prizes. Play this March, and Thursday nights, you could get on the winning streak that, frankly, you deserve. Let it ride and Roll for Riches. Only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Tonight, tomorrow, over the weekend, it's warming up. Starting to see the snow melt. A lot of grass. Had some rain back in Wisconsin. Nice. You know what that means? Snow is off the grill. You can do any grilling at all, and maybe you can do a little tailgating for the NFL Draft. Stop at Roberts Specialty Meats in Waukesha. Go to Roberts Specialty Meats Waukesha, where they have everything pre-prepared if you need it that way. Whether it's the ribs on a stick, the garlic parm chicken skewers, the pre-made sausages, or the pre-made burgers for that matter, or just stop in because they're your hometown butcher. They carry everything from the Wagyu steaks all the way down to local dairy stuff. They've got local crafts and cheeses and things like that are in there as well. So much good stuff, and it's all local from your hometown butcher. That is Paul Roberts and the gang over there at Roberts Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com on Sunset Drive in Waukesha. Roberts Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com. Back here at the Combine in Indianapolis in the Convention Center. And we're going to have Mike Clemens coming up here in about 20 minutes from now, where Mike had a chance to talk to some of the Badgers that are here on scene. So we'll get an update from Mike coming up here in a little bit. Really, I guess if you go with a synopsis of things as to what we've kind of learned, that the Packers, at least today, I learned last night that the Packers are not really keen on a trade. And I was told it was, quote, unlikely, not out of the realm of possibility. But it was unlikely unless something really fell to them that they were going to make any kind of a trade to fill one of their needs, which is corner and edge rusher and a wide receiver. But free agency, they expect to take care of at least one of those holes in free agency, provided that the money doesn't get too ridiculous value-wise. But it looks like it's going to be the draft. Looks like it's going to be a lot of draft and develop all over again. So now we just kind of wait and see what the Packers are able to do. And we all, look, and I've got a lot of people that have emailed today, but I understand the philosophy. Put it that way. I understand the philosophy. Don't necessarily agree with it. I think what was said the other day when we were talking to some of the GMs in the league, when they said, what the Packers do and the way they go about their business is really, really good, and it's very admirable. But the one general manager said, you can't forget about what got you there. What started it all 30 plus years ago, was a draft, a trade, and a free agent. You drafted, you picked up Brett Favre in a trade, and you got the free agent Reggie White, and the rest is history. Don't forget about it. Don't walk away from it. Embrace it, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. We got another hour yet to go. We'll get back into this when we come back. Stay right where you're at. We are broadcasting live here at the NFL Draft in Indianapolis. More from the Combine coming up right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Sports Zone Update.
Well, the Badgers going to hit the practice floor later this morning as they continue to get ready for their big game at Michigan State on Sunday. Spartans are sitting in first place in the Big Ten, a half game up on Michigan and 2 games up on the Badgers after getting a half-court buzzer beater to beat Maryland last night. Michigan State coach Tom Izzo recently became the all-time wins leader in the Big Ten. Wisconsin's Greg Gard called Izzo a mentor and has a ton of respect for him.
And he's got a really good team this year. Obviously, we only play him once, and I'll start studying in depth here very shortly. But He's got a really good team. They're deep. They're big. And obviously, I can't say enough about him as a coach and what he's done for our league, what he's done for Michigan State, what he's done for college basketball.
Again, it'll be Wisconsin and Michigan State on Sunday. Badgers looking for a third win over a top 10 team this year, and they're second on the road. Turning to the Bucks, they're back home tonight to face the Nuggets at Fiserv Forum. Milwaukee had its 4-game winning streak snapped on Tuesday night down in Houston. As it stands, Milwaukee sitting in 5th place in the Eastern Conference.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, if it wasn't clear before, it certainly is now. Jair Alexander not going to be back with the Packers in 2025. The NFL Network reported yesterday the team is trying to find a trading partner for the former All-Pro. He's played in just 14 games last 2 seasons. If he doesn't get traded, most expect him to be cut. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Welcome back. We are live. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Bill Michaels Show at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. And final hour, and then we wrap things up here today. Tomorrow morning, we are going to be live at the tasting room at Point Brewing tomorrow. And we're going to then be there over the weekend on Saturday for the Bach Run. So if you are in the area, if you're up in Marshfield, if you're up in Wausau, if you're up in Stevens Point, any of those surrounding areas, come on by and say hi. We're going to be there again tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be there doing the program, and then going to be there as the honorary starter for the Bach Run on Saturday before finally getting back home into my own bed, which I'm looking forward to after being on the road so much over the last month and a half. But that being said, excited about everything coming up at Stevens Point. I want to bring this up. And again, it's completely off topic when it comes to the NFL draft. It's really nothing draft related. But I was reading CBS Sports put out a heck of a piece on kind of behind the scenes with Doug Gottlieb. We all know Doug Gottlieb still doing the radio show, and it's titled "Doug Gottlieb Fights Back." Radio host turned coach takes on car crashes, snow, LeBron James, and lots of losing. But the whole story starts out about basically Doug Gottlieb he's got a game going on, and next thing you know, he looks down at his phone, he sees whatever the security camera is, and he realizes his car's been hit, and it was backed into by the Northern Kentucky team bus. Then he's got a couple of days later, another car, as he's following a snowplow, another car comes out of nowhere and hits him. And then he had gotten a ticket or a warning by campus police a couple of days prior because he didn't have a license plate on the back of his vehicle. So the same police officer that comes up to him on the crash notices it's the same guy, it's the same car, and it still doesn't have a plate on it, and he gives him a $160 ticket for that. I'm like, in a first season of what could go wrong, has gone wrong, is what Doug Gottlieb is living through right now. Did you read any of this, Grant, by any chance of the imagination?
Yeah, and I think one of the Green Bay stations did like a long feature with him, right? Like followed him around for a day, and there's been some Gottlieb stories. I don't know. It's nice, and I know they've been through the ups and downs, but it's Division I basketball school. Like, you can't lose 20 plus games in a row.
Right.
I mean,
that's the bottom line. So Gottlieb is getting beat up by those that want the school to succeed, physically getting beat up via car crashes. The police department, he's gotten a ticket now. I mean, normally when you're talking about a guy that's the head coach of a basketball program, you don't usually get tickets for not having a license plate on the back of your vehicle. You know, they kind of say, coach, come on, and they give you a couple of breaks. And if you're winning and suddenly you've got a 20-win season under your belt after turning around the program at UW Green Bay, probably doesn't happen. But it's it's been one hit after the other that he's taken this year. And, when they hired him, you knew he was at Super Bowl. It wasn't like he was back in Green Bay working with the guys. He was at Super Bowl. So, and we had him on the program. The negativity, I don't think they really expected. And now they're feeling it. Obviously that group of, alumni, they want wins. There's a lot of backlash going on right now. I don't know. I love Doug, and I love his energy. I love what he does. I love his knowledge. I don't know what he's going to do. I hope nothing but the best for him. I don't know what he's going to do. He's still, obviously the whole LeBron thing gets, thrown into the mix, and, the war of words, so to speak. Just because of where Doug's record is right now, and LeBron's jumping on that, which is, again, I get it. There's, the verbal jabs back and forth, but LeBron taking shots at him on Twitter and such. And I don't feel sorry for Doug. Doug's in the spotlight, and it is what it is. It comes with the territory, but LeBron's never been a classy guy. So except for when he was in the maid outfit at the Diddy party. But just, man, what a long piece as they talk about Doug Gottlieb, who is taking a ton of shots from the outside looking in because of where the record is for UW Green Bay. And if you haven't read it, take a read. I don't know if you walk away feeling a little more sympathetic. I don't know if you walk away feeling angry. I don't know if it depends on, I guess, what your perspective is as far as the basketball program at UW Green Bay. We've seen it excel. We've seen it win in Horizon League. We've seen it make it to the tournament. We've seen, it very, very low. And as far as wins and losses go, it's very, very low is where it's at right now. But I'm not going to look at one season and say it's a complete loss. Next season is going to be one of those prove-it years, though. Next season's going to be a big year for Doug Gottlieb as far as getting wins goes. But it has not been what everybody hoped it would be. And I don't really follow a lot of the recruiting aspects of UW Green Bay. But in reading this, it doesn't seem like, even with the national exposure that Doug brought to the institution, you're getting a lot of guys that are transferring in that are going to be coming out of the portal that are going to be going, yeah, I got to get to UW Green Bay. You know what I mean, Grant?
I know 100% what you mean. Gottlieb but he's always been this, even before he was coaching. He would always get in these situations, whether it's on Twitter, on a show, or it's like, how did this? Because he seems so nice. Every time I've interacted with him, very friendly, well-intentioned. And then I'd always see him like getting mixed up with, like, he's always in these situations. And I wonder, why is that? You know what I mean? And that's extended into his coaching career now.
So when the worst coaching records in the first season as a school's head coach over the last 10 years, he's ranked 10th. Raheem with Kennesaw State went 1-28. Larry Stewart, Coppin State, 2-27. There's a lot of 2-27, 2-26 with Stan Waterman out of Delaware State. Going back to 2021, 2022, Brett Nelson at Holy Cross went 3-29. Lance Irvin at Chicago State went 3-29. Donnie Marsh at Alabama A&M went 3-28. Lindsey Hunter at Mississippi Valley State, 3-27. And right now, Doug Gottlieb is sitting at 3-26 on the season. Then you got a couple more beyond that, but in the last 10 years, he's 10th when it comes to overall coaching worst records as a first-year head coach. Now, also don't forget, as a first-year head coach, it means you're taking over a program that wasn't really good because they were looking for a coach. Unless that coach leaves to go coach somewhere else on the up and come, you're kind of looking at some of the programs that were on the downside. So I'm not going to sit here and fault everybody, but man, it's you need wins in a bottom line, and he knows this. Look, he talks about it on his show. Bottom line business. It's wins and losses, man. It's what direction are they going? Do they have optimism? Is the horizon looking much brighter, or is it bleak? Is it negative? And depending on how bright that horizon is depending on how dark the tunnel is you're trying to climb out of as a head coach, as to whether or not you've got longevity or you're sitting on a very short leash and a very hot seat. But if you haven't read it already, it's go over at CBS Sports and you can read all that stuff there. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. JK in the 715 said, you give up a bag of footballs and a Diet Coke to go get Davante Adams. He is a plug-and-play guy. Thanks for the coverage down there in Indy. JK in the 715. If you had a legitimate way to get Davante Adams here, and because there's a lot of talk about Davante, let me say this. If Davante is all in and he wants to finish his career in Green Bay, he wants to be a mentor to the young guys, and he's still got something left in the tank, if it's a minimal deal, I would do it. I don't know if all three of those criteria are sitting there, though, to be perfectly honest with you. I would do it because Davante is one of the, between him and Jordy, I think two of the best route runners I've ever seen in Green Bay. I mean, there's a lot of good ones that are out there, but him and Jordy are two of the best route runners I've ever seen. And Jordy was a good route runner when he got here. Davante worked his ass off at his craft and got very, very good at it. And then has taken it obviously to another level, but since leaving Green Bay, he has found himself, kind of mired in purgatory. But those two guys, fantastic route runners. If there's a way to transfer that knowledge to a young base that the Packers have, I do in a heartbeat. But it's got to be the right deal, which is why, again, last night in the hallway, you start talking and you hear that the Packers are unlikely to get into the trade market. Highly unlikely, I think, was what the terminology was. Highly unlikely. I was asking about all these different players. No, highly unlikely. No. So, but could Davante be that guy? I think it would take a phone call from Davante's guy as opposed to the Packers going after him, and maybe they've kicked that tires. And again, I do know that the Packers have inquired about certain players in the possibility of trade market, so it's good to know the Packers are at least picking up the phone. But as far as going out and him specific, I don't know. This is just to add to that. This is the inverse of the Jair Alexander situation when the Packers are like, this contract is untenable. We want to trade him. And the rest of the league is like, well, why would we acquire him via trade on that deal? We'll just wait for you to cut him. It's the same with Adams. Packers would love to have Adams. I bet a bunch of teams would, but not on this deal. No. So yeah, he's not worth a lot in a trade, but that's because you're inheriting a really crummy contract. Right. Yeah, exactly. So my sense is much like Jair, Davante's going to hit the open market, and it's really going to be dependent on what people are willing to throw at him as to whether or not he ends up back in Green Bay. And that's the one thing that I was told was the Packers are going to address in free agency one of the holes, but they weren't specific as to about what the Packers are targeting. My guess is, and again, because now everybody's guessing, my guess is this, is that the Packers are going to look to fill all the holes. It's whatever deal works, that hole gets filled. It's not like they're sitting there saying, oh, we got to go out and get a pass rusher. That is only our focus. Because I think if they can get themselves a wide receiver, they'll do it. If they can get themselves a corner, they'll do it. If they can get an edge rusher, they'll do it. It's just got to be the right deal. But they will fill one of those holes in free agency. I don't doubt that. Just by the way I was kind of told. So let's do this. We're going to break away. We're going to take a quick break. Mike Clemens is going to join us. Mike is caught up with some of our guys with the Badgers safety, Hunter Waller. That's going to be coming up. So we're going to let Mike kind of steal the show for a little bit because he caught up with one of the Badgers here in Indianapolis, and we're going to hear all of that coverage coming up after this. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show down here in Indy. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at J&L Tire and Service Center right out there in the Johnson Creek area and in Watertown on Boulder Road in Watertown. As a matter of fact, on Johnson Creek, it's just at the Johnson Creek exit off of 94. You look north, you can see it. It's right there. That's J&L Tire and Service Center. Whether you're driving a big rig or a minivan or just a small coupe, it doesn't matter. They can handle everything. Brakes, oil changes, tires, major engine repair for everybody, and they have the facilities to do it. That is jnltire.com. That is jnltire.com.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree, and you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience and this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We are live in Indianapolis, and we are at the NFL Draft Combine. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Sobelman's Public Grill. I was over there last week, as a matter of fact, before I got out of town, and saw Dave Sobelman. Had a great conversation with him. Saw some friends there as well. Good burgers. Obviously, they've got a huge pork tenderloin sandwich. Like, the bun is almost insignificant. It's like trying to hold an airplane with 2 car tires. It's just massive. So if you haven't been there in a while, man, stop over to the one in Milwaukee on St. Paul Avenue. Been around a long time. Or the one in Waukesha, right across the street from La Estacion. And fantastic food, great Bloody Marys. That's our friends at Sobelman's Pub and Grill. They say, catch up, let's meet at Sobelman's. Joining us here at the table, our guy on the scene, Mike Clemens is here. And so you caught up with, you're catching up with Badgers and Goody and John Lynch and all kinds of people.
Yeah, there's at least 3 Wisconsin Badgers football players here at the Combine. They'll work out, talk to some of these teams and get interviewed. And the first one we talked to was just about an hour ago was Hunter Wohler, the safety, the kind of the Jim Leonard type, looking player back there. Tough kid, safety. Played at Muskego High outside the Milwaukee area. Gets into the Badgers, goes through the process there as, becomes a really dependable player back there, played through some injuries. And so, one of the questions that we asked him here at the Combine was, when your team goes 5-7 your senior year, right? I mean, you're on a great high school team. Then you're going to the bowl games every year when you go to Wisconsin, right?
Right.
And now you go 5-7. Now you go to 5-7, but you don't go to a bowl game as a Wisconsin Badger for the first time in 22 years. Where does that leave you now here at the Combine?
You definitely learn how to lose in a way. It always sucks. I wouldn't say you learn how to lose, but like going from high school and not really losing at all to getting to college and having some ups and downs, like you learn how to handle adversity and you learn how to be a leader and lead in those kind of tumultuous times and have to figure out and maneuver the different situations that you have. It was definitely tough at times, but like it teaches you lessons that you need going to the next level, because it's, you get into the league and every week you're playing really, really good competition. And so just being able to kind of reset every day when you walk in the locker room, there's a lot of great life lessons that came out of my 4 years of college.
So he, like he said, Muskego, very powerful program in the state of Wisconsin, and the facilities down there are amazing. And so he goes from winning, he gets into college, sees some winning. Luke comes in, and he doesn't see the same amount of winning. So I guess he's probably a good guy to ask. Like, what do you think about the state of the program? So
yeah,
speak, right?
I mean, my gosh, last season, Jack Del Rio, consultant on defense, has the OWI, drives over a fence in Madison. He's gone. Both the quarterbacks, even the one with the torn ACL, they hit the transfer portal and get out of Madison, right? And so, we asked Hunter Wohler, what kind of program did you leave behind with the Wisconsin Badgers?
It's going in the right direction. I mean, obviously, the last 2 years haven't exactly been what I envisioned, what Coach Fickle has envisioned. But like, Coach Fick's a great coach. I have 100% faith that he's gonna get that program in the right place. He's got a great coaching staff around him. Coach Brady, the strength coach, is a great dude. So they have the pieces in place to put together a really good program and put something together that's going to be special. And so I trust that, in the next few years, they'll be right back to competing for Big Ten championships and making their way into the playoff and making us now alumni really, really proud.
So let me ask you this, because you were standing there talking to him. When guys say that and you're looking him in the eye, is he saying it with conviction, or is he saying it like he's trying to be a PR piece for the program?
I tell you, he's really a football player.
Yeah.
And that it's just blank, and he's focused, and what's next. And you couldn't tell if this guy, had just won the national championship,
right,
or, came from a program that ended up struggling last year. And he's very focused on me and what do I need to do. I thought he had detailed answers. One of the things was someone said, what do you bring to any NFL team?
Right.
And he goes, football intelligence. And that's what he's selling.
Right.
That's what he's been probably coached up to do, whatever. But like, hey, I'll figure it out. I know I'll probably go 4th round, but I'll help you first year in your special teams. Look at Leo Chanel. All right.
Right.
Look at Zach Bond.
Zach Bond, perfect example.
And now these dudes are making plays in the Super Bowl 2-3 years later in the league. I can be that next guy out of Wisconsin. I can't believe I just came up with that, but it helps that we go to the Super Bowl.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I get to talk to those guys. So the next question that you have to ask them about this is that from going from Paul Christ to Luke Fickell, does having to adjust to the change of those eras, the change of those coaching staffs, maybe that'll prepare you for the NFL?
I do. Yeah, I do. Just because I think, having 3 different position coaches while I was there, and 2 different coordinators and 2 different playbooks. Like, does it, it's not always the most fun having to transition and stuff and build those new relationships, but also it's a bit of a blessing in disguise just because you are forced to learn a new playbook. You're forced to be thrown into these new positions that maybe you haven't played before. And having 3 different coaches, like, I'm able to see the game in a different light. Like, all the coaches have different views of the field and different views of game plans and playbooks, and so being able to just sit down and learn from them and learn how they see the game, like, it just you kind of build up a bunch of resources and in different angles to see the game and different angles to improve as you move forward.
He's faced really good competition in the Big Ten. So when you kind of talk about a guy like Hunter Wohler coming into the NFL and what he's had to face and what he's had to endure, he's faced NFL quality talent. So he's pretty prepared coming here to the combine. All he's got to do is show his wares analytically, and he should be pretty well off to his NFL career.
And Bill, I don't have as much time as I'd like to study college football, right. and I try and catch as much of Badger games as I can. But when I see that stuff, it's like, when they played Penn State, and there's number 44, Tyler Warren, who, and the commentators are talking about, look at this guy. They can make him an H-back. They can make him a tight end. Look at him. They'll just flip the ball. Hey, they'll go Wildcat with him. Big dude. I mean, he looks like a cross between George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. Right. And then you start seeing some of the mock drafts, like, well, it's not necessarily top 5 or something like that. I thought, man, this guy looks great. So we asked Hunter Wohler, hey, who's one of the toughest tight ends you had to play this year?
Tyler Warren, for sure. The offense ran through him at Penn State, and so the week of preparation, having to understand where he's going to be and where they want to put him. Like, he lined up at pretty much every position on the field. So having to know where he was at all times, with all these multiple formations and just a bunch of different stuff that they'd give us, and then they'd run tempo with that. So it was like you had to try to see it quick and understand it quick, and then get lined up and play. So besides the fact that he's a great football player, like, on the mental side of things, they challenge us a lot as well.
It's a great story. You're going to get a lot of those this weekend, and obviously some Badgers are down here. But it's going to be there's always something that's going to happen here that then will grab the headline by the end of the weekend. Because up until this point, it's basically been the tush push.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so we talked to the 49ers general manager, John Lynch. What do you think about the tush push? And he revealed some really interesting stuff. He's on the competition committee.
On the tush push. You know what? This is my first year on the competition committee. So I sat in there and I just listened, I never want something that found it could, because credit to the Eagles and congratulations to the Eagles. As hard as it is to say, respect. They had a tremendous season. We're a tremendous team right down to the end. And so a lot of good people in that organization. And I congratulate them. They're fantastic at that play. And a big part of me so I don't want to speak out of both sides of my mouth. I've always been a proponent. Well, if you don't like it, stop it. But I have my own feelings on that play, and I long have. It's not real pretty to watch. I think back to my playing days, and I think that might have made me do things that I wouldn't be proud of, because if they aren't going to stop it, I'll stop it. That kind of trickles into players that have a certain mentality's head, and I'm just being truthful there. And so I hope that's never the case. The competition committee, I've been really impressed the way they go about things. You go right down the line. Let's talk about it, for the game of football, the aesthetics of it. But let's talk about it first and foremost is always health and safety. And I think there's probably not enough significant data to show that, that a lot of people are getting injured on this play. There is, I think, a fear that something serious could happen on that play just because of the dynamics of it. And I think part of everyone involved job is to make tough decisions before that ever happens. And so that's something they're weighing. There's great discussion. And, I think that discussion will go to the owners meeting in Florida here in the coming weeks, and should be interesting, and a lot of strong opinions on both sides.
I get the sense that 24 voters are not going to file in favor of getting rid of the tush push. I think you're probably going to get about 10, 12, but he's like one of those guys of, if you don't like it, stop it.
You mean it'll take a tush push to get it through?
Yes.
Here's another situation. Green Bay Packers have Jair Alexander. Another tough season. Missed a lot of games due to injury. Out in San Francisco, it's Deebo Samuel, a guy who's done a lot of damage to you in playoff games. As a wide receiver, as a guy that they move around. Deebo saying after this last frustrating season, saying, I want out of San Francisco. So we asked John Lynch, the GM of the 49ers, to confirm, have you guys been talking about Deebo Samuel moving on?
Some conversations we've had with Deebo. It's something, we've been forthright with that. We're on good terms with Deebo. I think, he's asked for a fresh start, and, I think we're going to honor that. Don't like seeing great players, and he is a great player. He's, I think often one of my favorite draft picks in my time. This guy's just he makes plays, and he makes game-changing plays, and, everything's good, but I think at some point time happens, and he asked for that. We don't always, there's contracts and things, but it probably makes sense. So we're at least allowing him to look, and we're having conversations. We'll see where that goes.
So they're going to kind of honor the request if it makes sense for everybody in all angles.
Would you swap Deebo for Jair?
Yeah, I would.
Why not? Right?
I would.
And lastly, we learned this week in talking with the Packers and Brian Gutekunst to start of the week. Yeah, Christian Watson, torn ACL in that last game against the Bears, has had the surgery. They think he'll probably be back by November. Jaden Reed with the separated shoulder in the playoff game against the Eagles had to have surgery, might miss some of the OTAs. And then, we've learned through players like Aaron Rodgers and others that you and I have talked to, sometimes these guys do kind of exotic things to get their bodies right for the next season. And on Monday, Jay Glazer from Fox, NFL on Fox, posts a story. Hey, I'm down here in Panama at this spa where a lot of players are known to hang out in the offseason. And I'm with Green Bay Packers Kenny Clark. And it's hashtag stem cell research. He's using treatments out for a knee injury. And so I asked Brian Gutekunst about this.
Jay Glazer is down at some spa in Panama the players go to, maybe for stem cell help and all that. And he took a video of him and Kenny down there yesterday. Do you know about this place?
Flea and our medical team have, obviously when our players, not only Kenny, but some of our players have been there other places. And when they go to these places, they've done them pretty good. I mean, obviously, players can do what they want with that stuff, but our guys are really proactive as far as kind of checking these things out, trying to educate our players if there's any concerns or those, with those places or anything. But it's our players in our league, they are finding every way they can to improve themselves, and it's all over the globe. Yeah.
Interesting. So he doesn't sound thrilled about it, but he does.
Well, that was a little off side.
Right. He doesn't sound thrilled about it, but like he said, they're trying to figure out ways to improve themselves.
At least we know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we know about this place. We know that the player's there and all that, and we're very glad he's not getting his advice from Bobby Portis, his personal assistant.
Right. Exactly. He's not getting the tramadol as opposed to Toradol and all that kind of stuff. Because we've learned a lot this week. Talked about Jaden Reed. We talked about the trade for Jair that's now, open to anybody coming in and picking them up if they decide to do so. Kenny Clark. We know about the stinger with Elton Jenkins. He's going to be good to go. What else am I missing? Romeo Doubs, they don't feel is a concussion-prone guy. We know Christian Watson had the surgery and is not going to be back anytime soon, most likely end of October, November, I think at the earliest at this point. We know that they're highly unlikely to make a trade, but they do look to fix a hole or possibly two in free agency. And we know that another target for them is, again, going offensive line.
Yeah, and the sense is they don't think they can pull off a deal, a two-for deal like they did last year in free agency to get a great running back, to get a great safety like they did. It's kind of edge. They think they can do that. I think, though, that they're going to be very interested in pulling as many players out of this draft as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll trade down, whatever, and it'll be
he's not adverse to trading out of the first round, he said, too.
It'll be a typical trip of Brian Gutekunst going to the grocery store and needing 2 carts to haul his groceries out to the car.
So there you go. That's what we've learned this week. We're going to come back. We got more. We're broadcasting live down here in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. Mike Clemens alongside. I'm Bill Michaels. Stay tuned. We got more coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Hungry? Quick Trip's got you. No dinner plans? Food's here, and it's a pizza party. Don's pizzas are 4 for just $10. Choose from a variety of toppings. So easy and delicious. Get plenty to eat and keep your wallet happy too.
Food's here, and it's ready when you are. Quick Trip isn't just convenient. It's here to make your life easier and better.
Fuel up at your ultimate destination for snacks and meals that hit the spot. Only at Quick Trip.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes.
Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We are live. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana, where the NFL Combine 2025 is more than underway. You've got, I'll go through the list of what's going to be upcoming, but you've got all the players that are now heading over, and you've got different divisions. You got defensive ends and then the quarterbacks and wide receivers, and everybody goes in a different group, obviously, but you got all of that beginning today, starting at 3 o'clock here, 2 o'clock Central Time, and that's when all the players, as they call it, the Underwear Olympics gets underway. Plus, you got Brewers TV today, too, on FanDuel Sports Network, the first televised Brewers spring training game with Jackson Churio leading off and Savali taking the hill today. So that's good news as well. Earlier today, Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus in CBS joined us. So I had a chance to sit down and chat with him and talk a little bit about the draft analytics and the Green Bay Packers. Mike Renner of CBS Sports and their NFL draft analyst sitting here with us. I did not know you were originally from Milwaukee.
Yeah, born in Milwaukee. Grew up a little West Dallas and then Brookfield. Actually moved when I was in first grade. So
really, okay.
I feel like a little fraudulent claim Wisconsin, but I was born there and grew up. My whole family, massive Packers fans.
Okay. So. And then you actually, for a while with PFF, you were living in Cincinnati.
So we
covered a lot of the same stomping grounds.
Yeah, and my brother and my parents live up in Green Bay. So
wow. Okay. Yeah. So you got a place, although you can't go to the draft.
I can't go to the draft. We can't broadcast live at CBS. So I am doing stuff from our studio in South Florida. So I couldn't be farther away, and I'm very upset about it.
So this has got to be, for a draft analyst, this has got to be like Christmas Day.
Yes. Oh, I love the Combine. Now, I will preface that Combine numbers in a vacuum, just looking and saying, like, because this guy tested better than this other guy, that this guy's better. It's like, that's not how I use it. That's not how anyone uses it. So don't use it like that. But it's more in the context of you come in with an opinion of a guy, who he is. And if the numbers are different in some way, shape, or form, it makes you recheck and makes you rethink. And at the end of the day, you usually don't want to draft bad athletes. So if they come here and don't test well, it's like you need to find a reason why they didn't test well and why they'll succeed on an NFL football field despite it. And if you can't find one, well, sometimes those guys don't work out.
So when you're evaluating some of these guys, and because everybody wants to shoehorn certain players to the top, and I've never understood the whole, this guy is suddenly ascending. From the last time you saw him on the field, how does somebody suddenly ascend? Just because they go to a camp and they run a little bit faster than maybe what you thought they would?
They suddenly ascend because people in the NFL told you that they had higher grades on people in the media. That's how they suddenly ascend, is that it's not, they don't come here. And the guys that go here and test well, if you've watched the tape, it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise, or you're bad at this job. So, I think that suddenly ascending is a media artifact of basically catching up to what the NFL evaluations are.
The Packers obviously have certain needs. They need corners, they need edge rusher, they need a wide receiver. Now, after having a couple of discussions in the hall yesterday, I understand the Packers are not interested in making a trade. So it looks like for some of these guys that could be on the open market, they probably are not going to dive into that pond. But they are, at least from what I understand, open to bringing in a outside free agent to fill one of their three needs, which is corner, edge rusher, and or wide receiver. It seems like they want to go after one. Now, they'll probably have the money to do two if they need to, if they get a guy on the cheap, but it seems like it's free agency in the draft. So where is, out of the needs, and I hear also offensive line is now ascending, to use the word ascending, that they're looking now heavily at offensive linemen as well. So in those four particular cases, where is the most depth? Because I'm thinking if the Packers don't have depth in the later rounds, well, say the offensive line has plenty of offensive linemen, then chances are that's not going to be their first guy. It'll be a wide receiver or, say, a corner or something.
Yeah, I think defensive line's where the depth is. It's got top-end talent. It's got day 2 talent. It's got day 3 talent. It's the best position group in this draft class in terms of just sheer number. So defensive line is where I would be floored if 3 rounds went and not one of them is a defensive defensive tackle, right? So it's very deep. Corner is a little bit thinner on day 1, but there's a lot of guys on day 2 that are intriguing. And then offensive line, to me, it's a very bad interior offensive line class. Basically, of guys who played guard or center in college. Packers' way, though, is to go tackles. Draft a tackle, put him on the interior if you do need an interior guy. That usually works for guards, though, but it's a little bit more difficult for center, which is where they're probably going to have a need, right? So it's not a good year in the draft to want a center. I'll just say that.
That's one of the things, because people are talking about, Josh Myers as to whether or not you pay him or you don't pay him, you let him go, and if you do, then what happens? Would you pay Josh Myers?
I would not, unfortunately. That one haunted me from the moment it happened. The grade I had on him versus the grade I had on Creed Humphrey. We don't need to rehash it, but they were distinctly different by a few rounds. And just his play over the last 4 years.
They were good getting guys out of Ohio State, so they figured maybe this is the next coming.
Go back to him, and he got better over his rookie deal. Like, I don't think he was a liability by any means, but I think. Ideally, Elkin Jenkins was a center coming out. I do wonder if he'd be interested in going back there, because I think Jordan Morgan's best position is left guard. That's what I saw him as coming out of Arizona, and I think after what he showed last year,
were you surprised that they took him and labeled him as a tackle?
A little, because my eval was just like guard all the way. I just did not see tackle on his tape. I loved his tape. I thought he was an awesome player. I actually had him higher on my board than where he ended up going, but it was at guard all the way. So I was a little surprised. Obviously, you always give a guy the shot to start a tackle. You don't want to take that off the table entirely, but I think where he's at now at guard was his home.
When you look at the depth of the Packers' needs, and I've said all along, look, if you're going to get anybody, even in free agency, to me, the edge rusher takes the longest to develop. You can sheer speed and athleticism can help you when it comes to being a corner or a wide receiver, but you got to figure out moves and figure out the speed of the NFL. And my philosophy has always been, knowing this, that when you're in college and you're a guy going to the NFL as an edge rusher, you whip the ass out of maybe 9 out of the 12 guys you face. Because the other 3 guys might end up in the NFL. The other one, they're not coming here. And if you're that good and you're in the NFL, you're going to beat them. When you get here, every guy is as good as or better than you. And it takes them a lot longer to develop. So if you need an impact player now at the edge, the draft is not the way to go.
Correct. And especially in this class, even like the round 1 guys who are getting like top 10 hype after Abdul Carter from Penn State, who's obviously going to go like 2 or 3. There's not a guy who I feel could even be like a Jared Verse last year. And obviously he was a different animal, but he was like a 5th-year guy coming out. These are all young 20-year-olds who in college, they can just run around off its tackles. They're so much more athletic that they don't even like get to develop, because they don't have to develop. They don't have to develop a move to figure it out. So I think if I'm talking about this class and who can make immediate impact, I see wide receivers that can make immediate impact, that could start for you right away. I don't see a lot of edge rushers where the Packers are going to be drafting, or even in a day 2.
Who do you think, if the Packers for the first time in a long time take a wide receiver in the first round of the draft, the name that I keep hearing over and over, and specifically as I walk around here, that's going to be there at the tail end of the first round, is Ikabuka out of Ohio State. And that's their kind of guy. He's a very good route runner, very good hands.
Yeah, I honestly think all 3 of the guys who could be on the board there, Luther Burden from Missouri, Mekhi Ikabuka from Ohio State, and Matthew Golden from Texas, that you'll see in first round mocks, I think all actually fit what the Packers mold has been just over the course of, the Thompson, Gutekunst era, which is just bigger bodied route runners, guys who can run a slant in their sleep. So I see that with Ikabuka. I don't see him as number 1, but they just need reliability, right? You watch their receiving core, and just the up and down nature of these guys is frustrating. You'll have high highs, but then you'll have low lows. Mekhi Ikabuka is steady, and he's a super smart player. He's a locker room culture guy that I think the Packers would love. So he's on the board there. and he's a pick, I would love it.
What is his, we haven't seen him run yet, but what is his unofficial time? Are we looking at a 4.4 guy?
I think he's pretty fast. I don't think he's the most sudden. I don't think he's the guy who's an easy natural separator, but in terms of pure downfield speed, I think he'd be, he's not as fast as Christian Watson, but I think he'd probably be their second fastest wide. I think he likes low mid 4.4s. Yeah.
Better than Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs.
I think so.
Out of the Packers group, the name that I keep hearing over and over again is Dontavian Wicks. He's got the highest ceiling and the best level of ascension he can possibly get to. Now, hanging on the ball, it was problematic through about 10 games. And then after that, he stopped the drops. The drops really became almost eliminated at that point. To me, if I'm looking for a guy to take a leap this year, that's the guy I'm looking to take the leap.
100%. With him, it is just reliability because and dates back to Virginia, right? He had big time drop problems there, but it's not the way he attacks the ball. Like I worry with Christian Watson the way he attacks the ball, right?
Yes.
Dontavian Wicks will attack it well at the catch point, but just the ball slips through his hands too many times. He is catching out away from his body, but it's just getting through there. So those guys usually, I don't want to say will figure it out, but have the potential to figure it out. I think you remember Devontae Adams drops early in his career.
James Jones too.
Felt similarly about it. He attacked it the correct way. Everything was good until that ball hit his hands, and sometimes just mental, sometimes just getting that out of your head. So I tend to agree that guy, when I watch, is the most prototypical number one-esque traits of any of the guy they have, but it's just for some reason it hasn't all come together.
Looking at the rest of the draft class, I know that you can use depth. The Packers could use depth at maybe a linebacker position behind Edrin Cooper and Quay Walker. Quay Walker started to play really well before the injury. Edrin Cooper jumps off the page at you if he can just kind of eliminate some of the mental mistakes and really kind of get into the rhythm of the NFL. But they're going to need a lot of depth in corner too.
Yes. This linebacker class, it's not so what they would want, a bigger type of linebacker, because I think Edrin Cooper's your weak side linebacker. You would want maybe more of a Sam or a Mike linebacker. It's Jihad Campbell from Alabama, who may be on the board when they're drafting in the first round. And that's it. There's just not a lot of guys with that kind of prototypical size that they would want in their defense. But corner is more interesting to me because there's a lot of day two guys who are very good, just very savvy football players. I think this class doesn't have a ton of high-end athletes at corner. But you see a lot of guys who just great zone corners that can tackle and things of that nature. So it's interesting to see how they'll address that position, because I think we all know that they desperately need to address it.
All right, last couple of years, there's been players that we've looked at and we've said, these guys are going to be good. These guys are going to be impactful players in the NFL. My next question is there these guys? It doesn't seem to be this level of hype coming into this draft class.
Last year, I think I went about 14 deep where I was like, man, if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, I'd be floored. Outside of the quarterbacks. It was a great draft. This year, I'd probably go about 3 deep in that, where I'm like, if he doesn't make a Pro Bowl, I'll be floored. And it's the guys everyone's talking about, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and then Mason Graham, the DT out of Michigan. So after that, it really is a grab bag. I think number 5 on a lot of people's boards can be number 20 on other people's boards. It really, there's this big chasm in terms of how you're evaluating that next tier after those top 3. So it's a weird draft, but I do think there is a good amount of depth on the day 2, and especially again at the position that the Packers will need. So I sent my brother a text yesterday about a wish list of all, and I was like, there's a lot of guys on day 2 that I think could really be impact players from right away, and that's where you build your teams. That's where you make your money.
So there you go. That's Mike Renner from CBS, the draft analyst. Let's do this. And we're running a little bit long, but I wanted you to get that for those that didn't hear it in the first hour. Some sad news today to report. Some shocking news, to be honest with you. Stay tuned. We got more of the Bill Michaels Show, wrapping things up here in Indianapolis coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
You can accomplish quite a lot in 6 years. You go from changing diapers to dropping your child off at school. College, you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree. And you can take up to 6 years to pay off your brand new Pella windows and doors at 0% interest. Hi, it's Gina Della from Pella. With Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Talk about quality control. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. A 10-year labor warranty is always always included, so your windows and doors are secure for years to come. Our expert installers are available year-round and can install in as little as a day. If something ever goes wrong, Pella will handle it ASAP because you work with the same team from start to finish. Oh my gosh, why wait? Get the Pella experience in this incredible deal. 0% interest for up to 6 years on brand new Pella windows and doors. Set your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 3/8/25.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Only about a minute before we get out of here. Reminder, tomorrow we're going to be out of Indianapolis. We're going to be in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, up at Point Brewing. Looking forward to that, and can't wait for the weekend, the Bach run and such. But sad news today out of the actor world. Gene Hackman, 95 years of age. Gene Hackman, the Oscar winner, who I loved in the movie Hoosiers. Absolutely fantastic. Him, his wife, and one of their dogs were found dead today. Apparently, they've been dead for some time. A maintenance worker around their property discovered their body. They live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they were found dead today. Gene Hackman found dead, his wife, and their dog. They said they couldn't tell if they didn't believe it was like carbon monoxide poisoning or anything like that. There was an open bottle of pills that were found, but yeah, Gene Hackman found dead. Man, tragic story. Which I'm sure there's going to be more on that, but hate to end the show that way. We are now off to Wisconsin, leaving Indianapolis, and we will see all of you up in the Stevens Point, Marshfield, Wausau area coming up tomorrow. Until then, talk from 20 hours from now. Time to go. See you.